Now, hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have a big one for you tonight. Like, tuck in, folks, because this one's big. We got big news. We got lots of guests, and I am very excited about our guests. First of all, we've got Tom, obviously. No one's excited about that. But hey, Tom, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends.
It's good to have you back, Tom. But also joining us, we've got some true Warhammer heroes. I mean that in the truest sense of the word. But we're joined by Jind and Dan. How you doing, gentlemen?
We are doing fantastic. And how are you boys doing? And thank you so much for having us on.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good to see you.
It's good to have you on. We got a bonus guest too. This is John sitting with Jind. How you doing, sir?
Hello, welcome. Thank you. Is officially known by Games Workshop as the +1.
Yeah, exactly.
+1 at Adepticon.
When I sent the invite along, I didn't. It's I've always said there's a +1 on the invite for the show. No one ever took advantage of it. You did. So there you go.
That is gross.
And just as an aside on the +1 thing, I'll throw this out there. Maybe some people can say whether or not they would find this to be an interesting show. As a quick thing before we get into the news, my wife recently has been pestering me pestering is the wrong word, raising the issue since we went over to the UK for Warhammer World that she wants to do the Warhammer Spouses episode.
I said, so she got a taste of fame. That's the problem.
I have a lot to say about that.
Yes. So talk in the comments now. Tell me what you think. Do you want us to do a show where Tom and I both have our wives on and they discuss this hobby? Okay, there you go. That's throwing it out there. But gentlemen, oh my gosh, we have so much news. What are we even wasting time on? Let's get to it. All right, Tom, take us through this, buddy. You want to start off with the rumor engine? Are we starting with the rumor engine?
We're starting with the rumor engine. You want to know why?
Because it's Grotz,
baby. Woo!
Yes, because it is definitely Grotz. I completely agree with you. Hold on, let me bring up the image. I'm sorry, I was closing down a bunch of windows and accidentally closed this window because I'm a bad person. All right, there we go. Got it up. Let me reshare here. All right, there you go. Is that coming through okay?
You know what that is? That's a Grot sword right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
And for those that question that, by the way, just for the record, hold on. I'm gonna cinch this as to why this is a Grot sword.
Go.
I've painted a lot of these, painting Spiderfang. If you'll see right here.
Tom, you understand how the internet works that I locked onto my screen. So
yeah, and now you got to unlock, son. You see it? See it?
Hold on. We'll lock on you. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
I agree. It is the updated version of that sword. Yes.
Yeah. Now, does that mean we have Spiderfang? I don't know, but
I think it's just how MoonClan swords look now, or whatever the Goblin release is.
Yeah, it's probably is. I'm guessing it's MoonClan. Like, to be honest, it's probably MoonClan. It's not Spiderfang, as much as I would want a Spiderfang release.
I'm gonna go and say it's gonna be space Grotz. It's
there you go.
Oh, don't ruin it. You're ruining it.
The way they've been hitting us with the left field to do something based on a derivative from the old world, I don't think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna go with a fresh new take. These are gonna be Grotz with the goggles. They'll be flying the planes and the little blimps.
Oh, so you think it'll be an AoS like Scuttlebag Grotz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the spiders drop because the spiders.
10 times more awesome. You just went from like a 5 on my radar, like MoonClan, to like an 11. If it was that, if I get Goblin fighter pilots, I'll pre-order right now.
And instead of bombs, they're dropping spiders. Like instead of like parachuting out, like spiders are like dropping down on zip lines.
It would be squigs to stay in line with all the current fluff.
Well, those are the bombs. They drop squigs as bombs.
Yeah.
They zip line down on spiders.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
Yeah, and so let me address why it's not Skaven. Okay, because that's the other thing everybody said, like, could be a Skaven sword. All right, I've painted a lot of Skaven swords. And I went and looked at all the Skaven swords and did comparisons, and then I noticed something else. I looked at the Iron Jaws swords,
Oh,
And the interesting thing about that goblin sword is I agree with you, is not only does it look like the old Spider Fang swords, which it totally does, it also looks like the Iron Jaw swords, and it has the notches and bends in it of the Iron Jaw swords, but thinner and lighter and smaller. It looks like an Iron Jaw's weapon, but less.
Yeah.
Okay. Between the notches, between the way that the hook shapes are like on the one side where it's not a smooth thing, it's like chunk, 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 and then one smooth thing. That's Iron Jaw's blades. Like, again, I know I would love it to be Skaven too. It's not. Skaven swords don't look like that.
If we had to hedge our bets, gentlemen, and go with a left field contender, which race would we give that sword to?
Well, if you're asking me, like, what would be the dark horse? Skaven are the dark horse, right? Because that is the other thing it kind of resembles. If you wanted to swing like way out wide, right?
Beastman.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, sure. There you go. There's your super dark horse. I like it. Beastmen. Yeah. Brayherds, as it were. There you go.
I don't think it'll be that though. I mean, I really do think we're staring at a Grot release of some type.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they're not Moon Clan Grots with, it seems like every Harbinger has had their own army. So this is the next in line at Kmart.
Well, it's tracking. Like, we have 2 points that are making a line at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah. Between the Ordinator and the Knight of Shrouds. I agree. Yeah. I can't wait for the Dark Oath release, man. I want an army of like new super sweet barbarians in the same style as like the War Queen and the
in
the
one of the previews, we're getting ahead of the news, but in one of the previews they talked about the Dark Oath, a Dark Oath war something.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, so it sounded like a faction name. It wasn't like the Dark Oath War Queens. It was like the Dark Oath like War Tribe.
I do love the idea of the faction being the Dark Oath War Queens. They all are basically, it looks like Queen. They are led by Freddie Mercury, obviously.
Yes.
And
so does this fit into your leather daddy?
Yeah, you bet it does. Right on.
Dark Oath War Queens.
I can't wait. I am excited for this army. All right, so there you go. Let's go for the rest of the news.
So we had a whole lot of articles this week on, you know what? Let's not jump into that. Let's do all that together. As an aside, let me do a couple of the other pieces of news real quick.
Yep.
We had the announcement of the new Black Library Adventures for Kids. Like target ranges like 8 to 11 or 8 to 12. They're kind of like kids books, 140K, 1 AoS. And all of the vitriol that spilled out of this discussion, which is silly, because you know what? I've already pre-ordered mine.
Yeah, exactly.
I've already talked to my people, and I was like, I want one of both of those.
I think those are awesome for your kids.
Yeah, exactly. They will fall in love with Warhammer.
Yeah, so gentlemen, I'd like your opinion on this one. So Jind, what did you think of the Warhammer Adventure stuff, the kids focused books?
I thought it was fantastic. What's really disgusted me is the reaction from quite a vocal, and you can't even say minority. There's actually quite a few people in various groups that are frequent, mostly the 40K groups. And I just don't understand what the problem is. Like, this is not going to affect you in any shape, way, or form. Buy your toys, build your toys, play with your toys. Don't buy those little comics. What is wrong in Games Workshop pursuing on the side, completely unrelated to what you're doing with your life, something that's going to potentially bring in fresh blood? It's going to cultivate the hobby long term and keep the glorious hobby going beyond our current life cycle when we all decide to hang up our dice, which is not going to happen, by the way, guys. We're going to go.
No, I mean, at some point.
I'll take them from our cold dead hands.
It really annoys me when you see those kind of comments, and it takes all my restraint and civilized behavior to not post acidic remarks to those people, other than man shouts at sky in other news, because
right.
It's a big problem with it. They're great. I think it's great.
I completely agree with everything you just said. It is as impactful to me as, like, I don't watch Teen Titans Go or whatever, but I know lots of. Well, I know you have kids. But that's not my point. Like, I know a lot of kids love it. I don't watch that, but I still like, other DC comics. Like, it doesn't. Who cares? Like, it is what it is. It's its own thing. You can whatever. Dan, what about yourself? Anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I'm a father, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed is introducing Warhammer to my 12-year-old and 16-year-old. And when they were early, much younger, it was very difficult to get them into the storylines. And so they would love to roll dice and play. And so this is not only a gateway for new gamers to come in and new people to really enjoy it, but think about it from a father child perspective or a mother child perspective. What a great way to really expand your hobby and partner with them. I don't know about you, whether it's Adepticon or some of these other tournaments I go to, you see a lot of father and son teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's great.
I've already begun training my son.
You have. I fully support, Relian just said in the comments, like, it's the best example. Like, to me, it is the winning example. Lego Batman and the Dark Knight trilogy can exist in the same world without either one needing to, neither one diminishes the other.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And actually, something that just came to me right now is people are focusing on, it's not true to the lore, etc., etc. But here's the thing. If you pick up a Black Library book and you read, don't read it for the context. Just look at the words, the actual words, the vocabulary. There's some pretty advanced language they use in a lot of their books. If you throw that at a younger child, they might not even want to try to make their way through that. It would be like me trying to read the original Lord of the Rings books as a youngster, the Silmarillion. I wasn't ready for that until I was a bit older and I could actually understand the context behind a lot of the language. So again, if someone's trying to bring something out that's going to make this more accessible, more fun to a different segment, who cares? Come on, guys and girls, just get over it and just, move on.
Yep. Also, let me just say, the little AdMech kid, the one with like the bionic arm.
Yeah.
I want that as a mini. I'm just throwing that out there.
The kid.
I'll paint that kid. That kid looks sweet. Like, that'd be a cool mini.
Vince, you don't have a good track record of painting kids. After your Malifaux said.
Look, yes, I do.
The Morgan crossover from Walking Dead, who does no harm to anyone and does no violence, doesn't like guns.
All right, so let's move on. What's next? So we have also the discounted Shadespire crews are dropping this next weekend. That'll be exciting for folks that just want the minis that weren't really interested in the cards. I know that a lot of people are still waiting on the cards, but I'm super excited to see them offering the crews kind of separate, especially for conversions and stuff like that, because these are a lot of hot armies, and so it's just a great opportunity to do some conversions.
Well, yeah, I'm just interested in buying some of the units, like literally just to have to drop into my army on the table, right? Because I don't play Shadespire very much, and I don't or at all. I play it whenever I go to tournaments and people ask me if I want to play, and then I just sit down and say, "Okay, hand me a deck." And I'll be like, I'm familiar, but I do want to be able to.
Why I have all the Shadespire stuff so that I can just show up and be like, "Here, Vince."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Last time we played, Tom just showed up and he was like, "Here you go. You play this." Okay. Yeah. So I'm good with it. I already have the orcs, which I bought the whole thing, but I would have bought just the figs if I could. So that's fine. Good stuff.
Yeah. So that is dropping soon. Let's talk about new stuff. Let's talk about second edition, because obviously that's all the conversation right now.
We need that little noise. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to start oldest and soonest or what?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so we're going to talk about so Lookout Sir was the first big thing that kind of dropped last week. In the time between, we found out that it's a thing again. We now have a subsystem for Lookout Sir. And basically, for those that have not caught, Vince, do you have the images of this or not?
No, I don't. What do you want me to? I can bring up images, whatever you want.
They just had little pretty graphics that they put together. I doubt we'll ever see those again outside of these previews.
Sure.
And basically, what the Lookout Sir thing says is that if you have a hero that's within 3 inches of a unit of like a handful of models or more, I don't remember what the number is, like 3 or 5, then the basically you have -1 to hit that hero, but that hero can't be a monster.
Yes.
They want to hit the hero, in range combat.
Would you like the exact rules text?
Sure, do that.
You must subtract 1 from hit rolls made for missile weapons if the target of the attack is an enemy hero, bolded, that is within 3 inches of an enemy unit that has 3 or more models. Period. The Lookout Sir rule does not apply if the target hero is a monster bolded. There you go.
You know what? That becomes really fun in like
all the non-monster heroes that are really pretty potent, like the Eidolons or
oh no, you're thinking about exploitive stuff like Cauldron of Blood.
What kind of weird world has happened here where I'm thinking about the exploitive stuff and you're not? Yes, correct. Like Hurricanums and stuff like that. We've entered the upside down. Go ahead.
No, and I was just gonna say, like in like multiplayer games,
sure.
Like the heroes like get into the thick of the enemy, and there's something like everybody has -1 to hit them, like the other players do, because there's a bunch of other people around them.
Sure, yeah, it's funny. All right, so until the launch of AoS 2, thus beginneth a new segment in the news, a sub-segment we're introducing into the news.
We're incepting people.
Where it's newsception, where we go best of all possible worlds, worst of all possible worlds. Here's the premise, okay? New segment premise. Because we're only getting snippets, right? And we don't have a lot of these rules in context. It leaves a lot.
We have none of these rules in context.
Sure. Totally fair. So it leaves a lot to the imagination. So we are going to now talk about, now it's time to play best of all possible worlds, worst of all possible worlds, where we discuss how the rule could be implemented and everything will be fine, and how the rule could be implemented and things will be a nightmare if that at all applies, or what's the best and worst case. All right, now that I've over-explained that, I want to go to the guests first.
Absolutely.
All right, so gentlemen, Dan, let's start with you this time. What do you think about the Lookout Sir rule? Are you excited for this to come back? Do you have any concerns and or ways you think it's going to be good or bad?
So personally, I am thrilled. I'm working on a Legion of Night army right now,
of course.
And I love to run the Vampire Lord with a group of 60 zombies, and that gives him 2 attacks. I mean, you can buff him up, but he's got 5 wounds, and so that mug gets shot off the field right away. So I'm excited that I get a chance to use that, in some of those scenarios.
Right on. Okay. So, Jind, what about yourself? What's your feeling on it?
I'm going to ask my +1. What do you think, +1? Well, I actually like it too because, for example, I run with Khorne Demons a lot, and a lot of their battalions rely on characters, and if they get shot out too easily, it just kind of ruins the battalion characteristics, right? So I'm super excited about the name because it's a remnant of the world that was, or the rules that was. I think it's great. As for the rule, it's an extra level of protection. Does it excite me? No. Something like the command point rule, that's exciting. Something about the turn priority, that's exciting. This is nice to have, but it's not exciting. It's just like having a door in the room. It has a function, but you don't get excited about your door unless you're indoors or in the house and you need to escape.
No, I like that. That's a great analogy. It's like having a door in the room. Yeah, we just kind of take it for granted.
But I think it will be great in conjunction with the other rules. For example, not being able to shoot out of combat. Now, we don't exactly know how that's going to work. If there's, but I think combined with some of the other rules, singular rule on its own, it doesn't sound great. But I think combined with everything else, I think it's going to have a very subtle but powerful impact. And I think it will give a smidgen of protection to characters.
Yeah, surprisingly in our area too, that shooting into and out of combat is a difficult issue for people who were in the game in the world that was. So they have difficulty just imagining stopping, attacking the enemy in front of you to fire at the enemy behind them. So sure. I think that'll be helpful in bringing a few of the gamers back.
All right, so we already mentioned that I'm excited about all the non-monster heroes that are going to benefit from this. I can't wait. Like I'm thrilled that my Marathi is now untouchable by missile weapons. Untouchable. In Calibron, she's like -3 to be hit. Get out of here. You don't have guns that can kill me. And so that's great. And she outranges everybody in spells. So I can stand outside of your dispel range, which we'll talk a minute, and cast. So seems good. Keep her points the same, and I'm thrilled. I'll play devil's advocate on this one. The Cauldron of Blood and all those things that aren't actually monsters.
Woo!
Yeah, exactly. How nice for the Celestial Hurricanum. What a great benefit for that thing. That rolling giant galactic wagon has -1 to be shot, as it's worded right now. Again, this is all out of context stuff because The important part about this little segment is that we don't know the other changes. Like those things could have other rules changes, or there could be other things
in matched play. Also, behemoths.
Right.
Type.
Exactly. So that's the point of this, is that we don't know this. Like as it stands right now, and with completely context free, I'm excited about that. Everybody, what I love about this rule, this is probably the one I'm the least excited about, because what I love about this is as soon as we hear this rule, everybody's like, "Yay, my Grot Shaman gets to live," or whatever. Pick your weedy hero, right? That's not my thought. My thought is like, "Yay, my 1+ re-rolling save Lord Celestant, who didn't need Mystic Shield to get to that 1+,
Yeah.
is now also neg1 to be shot. I hope you brought them mortal wounds, maybe, because I ain't going nowhere."
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in here and say that. So I haven't went yet. What I would say is this: in the best of all possible worlds, this will help de-incentivize and help keep some of those characters alive that have traditionally been hard to keep alive.
Sure.
If everything's working according to plan. The problem is that the secondary effects of keeping alive your castellans.
Your super tough heroes who were already like rocks, you were almost impossible.
Right. Or the Lord Celestin on foot with Mirror Shield, who's now neg3 to hit with shooting.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Or heaven forbid, necromancers in in Legion of Sacrament now will never be touched.
Right, sure. That guy's
to missile
weapons. To missile weapons. All of this is restricted to missile weapons.
Right. Well, only mortal wounds will touch them, and even then, they're going to share those to the zombies next door or the skeletons.
It's not a huge share, but yes, that 6-up T-shirt necromancer just became darn near immune to shooting.
Right, and you can bury them in the middle of those 40 block of units or 60 block of, and so now you can't get to them physically either. They will be untouchable outside of spell mortal wounds.
Sure.
I mean, that's just the world we're going to live in, because all of them will have neg2 to neg3 to be shot at range.
Again, not the world we're going to live in. The world we could live in is we don't know everything else. That's a.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know anything that would stop that, and that's my fear, is the stacking. My fear is ultimately the stacking of how this stacks with everything else that's already out there that's penalties.
Sure.
And that's what's terrifying.
Now, let me twist this real quick on to say why I'm actually happy about this rule at the same time, despite everything we just said. Okay? Because I do agree with you, Dan and Jind, actually, on this. Because this isn't the nightmare scenario. Okay? In the community darkest timeline, we're not living in that one. Right. Okay? Right. There was a nightmare scenario darkest timeline where we absorbed the true 40k rule.
Yeah.
The thing that people were calling for, where characters couldn't be targeted and the game just went sideways broken.
Yep.
Right. So this is actually a pretty light touch, all things considered. Some of the stuff Tom and I are talking about, it's funny, some of the combos, but that's just it. These are some funny, synergistic combos that people can build to and answer. None of these things are unanswerable.
Right, and these are secondary and tertiary effects.
Right, not just so obvious you busted the game sideways by making a change. So I'm happy that
people won't see a lot of those consequences.
Right.
At least not initially.
All right. Any other closing thoughts on the lookout, sir? This is the minimal one. This is going to be the fast one.
I think that the one thing that I'm interested to see is how this is going to play with some of the command abilities that are out there. So I think there's some really distinct, great filth that we're going to figure out in the next few weeks based on that.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, also, by the way, because we just made a rule, so a real quick note on game design. This is how game design works, folks. In exception-based design, which is what this is. So exception-based design means you have a set of rules, you write an exception to it, that's a rule, right? You have a core set of expectations, you write a rule that accepts it. So for example, I can shoot anybody and this is my number to hit them. Base rule. Exception, these heroes have neg1 to be hit, right? Okay. Right. So game design space is created when you make an exception rule, because now you can have people ignore the exception.
Right. So now you can write rules that now ignore other people's exceptions.
Right. So the key being is that we also just opened that up. So KO, if they're to be still a lot of people have asked about KO things. It could be that KO have an allegiance ability or a command trait or a command ability or a game element of some kind that says they ignore this rule.
Right.
You can't.
Or they ignore only shooting in combat. Those things can be developed. Now you've opened up that design space. Yeah.
Yes. And as has been pointed out, everything we said is just for shooting. Magic is still deadly to characters and and this is just miss a weapon. So Zinch and Nagash are still pretty good at just being like, nope.
But not with Arcane Bolt, which we'll now talk about.
All right, let's start next one.
I'm gonna jump to spells. I'm gonna jump over command points real quick. So they revealed spells. Spells are we don't know how they work yet for realm spells. We were introduced to the fact that there will be 7 realm spell sets, which doesn't make sense because there are 8 realms. But they said there will be 7 realm spell sets of 6 spells each. Is that right?
Well, it makes sense because no one's been fighting in Sigmar's home turf. His realm.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So 7 of 7. That's a good call, Jen. It's 7 spells and 7 because it was almost 50. And yeah, you're right. Nobody's fighting in Azir, so they don't get a lore.
I'm sure they. I don't know. That is weird. I
was probably the realm of chaos that they're keeping out.
Well, no, but there are 8 winds
9.
of magic. Right.
Yeah.
Chaos is 9. So there are 8 winds of magic, each corresponding to one of the mortal realms.
I was wondering if they were just going to take like the lore of shadow spells that are in the dock and make those the Ulgu shadow spells, and so they wouldn't reintroduce those.
Well, but all those are keyworded right now to Daughters of Cain, and so they have to rewrite them. And I don't know if they want to give Mind Razor out to everybody.
Fair point.
Just saying. I mean, they did before, but so we have these realm spells. They seem to say that like whenever you're fighting in a realm, wizards will gain access to those spells. We don't know how that works. We don't know if it's narrative. We don't know anything about it other than they exist. And then we also got previewed the new forms of Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt. Arcane Bolt went from a D3 mortal wounds down to 1 mortal wound unless your casting value is 10 or higher, then it goes to a D3 mortal wounds. Mystic Shield went from +1 save to reroll 1s to saves.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we learned is that unbinds are at 30 inches now. That's something Vince alluded to earlier.
Yep. So boom, meteor, but mic drop, bomb explosion, big stuff. All right. Round robin. Jind, I'm going to you first this time, buddy. Magic changes. Hit on whatever you want. Realm spells. Spin it out. Changes to the base spells. Dispel range.
Well, we'll go with the base spells first because I think the change to Mystic Shield was fantastic because you're going to move away from having 2+ save Liberators in cover with re-rolling 1s for the saves. So anything that makes the game faster in the sense that models can die quicker, I think is good. And it's still a bit of a benefit. Re-rolling 1s is not to be sniffed at. Can
I put my finger on something though, Jen, real quick? Like highlight something you just said. You said that that we're not going to have 2+ save Liberators rerolling 1s. That's not.
Oh, I guess you technically could with the Castellan.
And potentially Staunch Defender, which will probably go away, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So the problem, I want to get back to what you just said later on because that's the darkest timeline here. Continue.
I thought the Arcane Bolt was great because Arcane Bolt was just a character sniper. So again, it's going to help towards character preservation. It's going to help bring back some of the more squishy 80 to 100 point characters, which I think is fine. And the realm spells, well, I'm on the fence because the mechanics look great. But you know what? We've had that before when they were talking about the Realm Gate Wars. And we had the great narrative books, and this was pre-General's Handbook, and we had special rules for the realms. If you was fighting in the Realm of Fire and you're shooting through cover, you couldn't because of all the smoke coming out. There was just literally no line of sight for that. Unfortunately, unless you and your friends were playing and you were kind of agreeing to that, all those rules fell to the wayside and they never got used. So if this is going to kind of be like that, this is you may choose to, what that really comes down to is no one's ever going to play it. Because I do 40k too, so when they brought out in 6th edition Escalation and Stronghold Assault and the Aerial Assault book, you may choose, they said, and so everyone chose not to play those books unless you met the one guy or girl that would actually be open and want to play them. So we'll see if that's included or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dan, so go ahead. Your thoughts on any or all of the above, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was mind-blowing to actually see that. I mean, my first initial reaction when I saw the teeth on that realm spell was to contact my geriatric dentist and insist that those be my dentures in the future. That was my first reaction. The second reaction was, what a missed opportunity for Foot of Gork. I mean, I wish we had this giant floating foot that would go through that spell. I mean, just as an old fanboy, that would have been great. Honestly, Arcane Bolt, I'm not. Some of my friends are a little put off by that, but I'm okay with it. There's a lot of great spells that some of the armies have that do D3 mortal wounds. They just get ignored because Arcane Bolt does it.
Yeah.
And and frankly, I think to Tom's point, hey, there's a lot of ways to get 2+ now with the new Mystic Shield. There's a lot of armies that couldn't get that. That were getting that +1 cover, all sorts of ways where we just become unmovable objects. So I'm glad that they went to the re-rolling ones. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So I'll Tom, do you want to go ahead? I should let you go next. Go ahead, Tom.
So I'll say this. Unbind, I like it because it adds utility to heroes that there wasn't as much utility before. So I think about things like Rune Masters or Navigators amongst the dwarf factions where suddenly they have a real value because those are going to be in the backfield anyways. At 30 inches, you can really put some unbind distance. So I like that. I like the increased unbind. I'm terrified to know what curselings are going to do now with that 30-inch unbind.
Which they mentioned in the article, and I love. They were like, even they knew.
That was the first place I went to.
Yeah.
That and potentially the increased range on unbind from the Tzeentch thing. Like if he's getting like a 40-inch or 38-inch unbind, like it's going to be scary. He's going to be throwing spells and stealing spells. So I like that. I don't like Arcane Bolt going because the opposite of that is, yes, there are a number of like specific spells, but for some factions that was their only option for good damage from reliable mortal wounds. I think about my dwarves, like I didn't ever have mortal wounds, and I went part of the reason why I went mixed order was I wanted an Arcane Bolt. I wanted to be able to put a D3 mortal wound because I didn't have a good mortal wound delivery system. Now I don't.
Well, and then the question from that is obviously, again, because we're taking this out of context, what does other magic that suddenly becomes available to everybody look like? Because that could totally upend the apple cart.
Like that's the other thing. Like, we've been talking about Mystic Shield going away and it going to like reroll ones on saves. But that you could still, in the realm of metal of Shimon, have a +1 save.
Right.
Like a steel skin or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Surprise, like it could re-pop up. So it may not be that that's gone. What I would also say, though, is I really, 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 I fear the Darkest Timeline with regard to Mystic Shield. And for me, what the Darkest Timeline is that a lot of the other factions that have other bonuses to saves don't get modified. They don't remove the other bonuses, those pluses to save. And what we end up in is a world where the number of people that can have highly defensive units are reduced. So now if you want to have a defensive unit, you get Stormcast, you get Daughters of Cain, you get a handful of folks that can give +1 saves other ways. And then now they just handed out an ability that was actually extraordinarily rare to get. Reroll ones to save. Like there are a handful of defensive units that could get it, but it wasn't a buff that like anybody was handing out. Before it was actually a relatively rare buff. I remember when I was running my Chaos, I wanted the Sorcerer Lord in there because his Oracular Visions gave reroll ones to save. So he could hand it out to anybody. And that was a big deal. Now everybody can do that. And so if you have other ways to bonus saves, and I don't have faith that they went through and changed every single war scroll that's bonusing saves.
Yeah, this one's interesting because doing the best and worst world, there's a lot of different ways this spins out because we know so little, right? The one that's sort of the most clear out of all of this is the 30-inch dispel, right? It's pretty easy to map out what the effects of that are. Like you'll have more ability to shut down magic, right? I mean, that's it. Like it'll be you will have more opportunities to dispel magic. Period. That's because it'll be easier to have spellcasters in range. So magic becomes harder to use because dispel becomes easier to do. That is to say, simply by virtue of being in range more.
And because Nagash exists out there.
Sure, and whatever, and all people who get bonuses to dispel and blah, blah, blah. I mean, even the dumb rune lord or whatever he is has like +2 to his dispel, right? And he's cracking that off at 30 inches now. Fear that little dwarven rune dude. He will shut down the non-bonus casters. Like
he was my general too.
Yeah, +2 is a massive bonus on a dispel roll. If you're rolling against somebody who's just rolling hard dice, right? That's a big.
It's moving the needle. It's moving the needle in a serious way.
Yeah. So, like, the obvious downside to it is you don't need to put your caster in as much danger anymore to dispel, right? Like that part of the old rule, part of the 18 inches was your casters had to get in relatively close range to both buff and dispel, right? To interact. And so you had to put your wizard in some amount of danger. He can stay in less, he can stay more out of danger now and still dispel. Okay, that's fine. I think in the end, it's probably actually good on balance, especially if we're going to ramp up magic with a bunch of new stuff to have it easier to control it. So I think that's probably all good. I love the changes to Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield. I have no problem with those. I think they're the best change. Again, in the void, because I thought Mystic Shield was just flat too good. Sorry. I'm sure everybody loved it. Well, it was the first spell I cast every round. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Always.
Really?
Yeah. Always.
That's
yes.
a mistake. You cast other spells first to fish out their unbind.
Put yourself in range of unbinds. I never cast it if I was in range of unbinds. Okay. I made sure that I wasn't in range. Anyways. Assume you know what I mean. Like Mystic Shield, you chose over anything else every time because +1 to save was so unbelievably valuable, right? So I'm actually happy that with those changes, I think they're good. And yes, some people won't work as well. And yes, there are some units that now already have their existing +1 to saves and whatever, like the Stormcast or like the Bronze Flesh Prayer out of Khorne and just other stuff. And who knows how those all play out in new War Scrolls, so I don't want to judge on that. My hope would be Jin's point is exactly true. Like defensive tar pit units that go to like 2+ rerolling ones, a prevalence of those, the more that everybody can up their defense to 3 and 2+, the slower games get.
Yeah.
Because the more dice are rolled for nothing.
But not only that, but the new world that we're in about handing out reroll ones to save, now your Maw Crusher is always 3-up reroll ones.
Sure, which again, like
all those native 3-ups now are going to be 3-up reroll ones, which is, I would argue, a much worse world.
I understand your point about because now you roll some dice. Rerolling the 2 or 3 ones that I toss on an average attack is a negligent time-consuming change compared to the amount of extra units that will die. The 16% of extra deaths that occur on a large unit. That is so much more expediting to a game. Period. It just is. There's no way that time balance is even close. Okay. Now, And again, like we said, there could be we don't know what any of the realm spells look like, what those look like, or what generic magic looks like, or blah 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 blah. Whatever options there are.
You don't know what cover does yet either. Sure. cover may also give reroll ones to saves.
Sure. So
one thing to think about too with this is, one of the things that I didn't like about the old Mystic Shield is if I had a Rendus 1, it was almost always negated when I needed it.
Sure.
And so, there are some benefits to those rerolls, but now Rend is going to be much more significant.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, on the flip side is that in a world where bonuses are hard to get, suddenly the neg2, neg3 Rend that the KO are throwing around is actually meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
More so than it was.
Yeah. And so, I completely agreed. Yes. And the final thing is the realm spells. I don't think we know enough to judge. Who knows? Tom has already been funnily pointing out on Twitter the various funny things with the Heish spell they showed off, like his ridiculous Tangle the Snake attack, where you pick up the unit and you crisscross them into another unit so that the units are stuck and neither unit can move because they can't scoot over their own troops. So you literally interlock 2 units that unless they can fly, they're now stuck for the rest of the game.
Awesome.
Just like that. Tom, you're the worst. Let's just get that out there.
Well, the funny thing is that I wasn't even trying to break it, but somebody had made a comment about oh, how awesome would it be to move this? And I was like, yeah, but what does that look like when you wait a minute? Because I thought about if I started putting them down, and I'm I could wrap them around terrain, or I could wrap them through other people's units.
Yeah, the banishment trick with wrapping in units. Your little tangled snake trick is funny. The funnier thing about that, though, was the other combo that got trotted out of picking them up and dropping them 9 inches away from your shooting unit when there's a Griffhound around who's what? Bark! Just levels them. You just
banishment suddenly becomes banishment suddenly becomes this amazingly offensive tool around a Gryph-hound.
Like your stock is rising, Gryph-hound. Like he'll actually get to bark, because the problem with Gryph-hounds is once you have them, nobody ever sets up and triggers it, right? They all just like don't do that. That's no fun. He's too effective. That's a great guard dog. He's way too effective. He stopped all such incursions in history of his presence. So now you can actually get him to bark.
The realm spells, are they the ones represented by the new models?
No, because that's the endless, or what's it called? Like there's two names for them. They have two new name types, endless and what's the other one?
It's actually amazing and mind-blowing is the two names for them. I love those models.
Sure. You're right. Like endless and perpetual or something, or
endless spells.
Well, they're there, but there's two different kinds. Clearly, they seem to make reference to the fact that that's not just that. But yeah, so we'll see the predatory. Thank you very much, Red Wizard. I appreciate that. Endless and predatory were the two names of the spells. Clearly, like some numbers of the models are going to be endless because they mentioned the big giant Pachompy Chomp. We got those rules in the Iron Jaw thing where the chain chomp, when he gets out after your guys and breaks free and moves over models and causes D3 mortal wounds. Like, I'm really not super concerned about this. Is another reason I'm not really worried about the Arcane Bolt thing. Like, however all this new magic works out, I get the distinct feeling there's still going to be plenty of mortal wounds getting thrown around. So, like, I've got a sense magic tends to kill things dead, and they're introducing like 3 new types of magic. So Arcane Bolt going from D3 all the time to 1 some of the time probably isn't the end of mortal wounds in AoS. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. All right. So they the full preview they did say for one of those 2 is coming this week. They mentioned that in the doc preview today that we're going to learn about them this week. So
we're going to learn about what?
Like one of either the endless or predatory spells this week.
The other thing that we learned was that in the doc preview, just because you mentioned it, was that there will be realm items as well. And
which that sword was hot. I loved that sword. Are you kidding me? 6+ to hit. You did D6 mortal wounds. Ba-boom! Like coming in hot.
Well, yes, I hear that. I like the crown that turned you into a Medusa.
Yeah, that was super cool too. Like I dug both of those magic items, man. Old school Medusa too, not new. You got old school Medusa powers, like pre-doc Medusa powers.
Yeah. That said, I suspect that these are going to be. I suspect the more I read about it, the more that all the realm stuff is going to be narrative.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the big question right now.
I hope not. Like, I hope not. And at the same time, it gives me hope to go to events like Holy Wars that are narrative focused.
Sure.
Where we'll actually probably get to play with stuff like that, where you may not normally in a normal event. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, gentlemen. There's obviously lots of thoughts about this because both the items, we've got realm dependent spells. So let me ask it this way.
Yeah.
Dan and Jind, let's start with Dan. What do you hope happens? Not, don't even have to predict. Just in your perfect world, how does this realm stuff work and how do you see it? Give me a 40,000 foot view sort of how you'd like to see this spin out.
So as scientists call it, I am cuckoos for Cocoa Puffs. That, with the idea that this will go mainstream. We were big fans of the Realm Gate Wars when it first came out and playing in the different realms. And a good friend of mine, Brian Stry, and I both play Legion of Asgore. And in our rules, we have benefits for playing in the Realm of Fire. But if we go to any tournaments, it's not there. And if you ask somebody in a casual game, can we roll the D8 to see what realm we're in? They look at you like you've got 3 eyes.
No, no, that's not how you start that conversation. It's we're playing in the Realm of Fire, right?
Yeah, you guys like participate.
That's right.
The rules
say it's hot in here.
The rules say you have to agree on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Also, they didn't read those rules.
No ruling.
Yeah, they didn't.
Most people haven't read the rules, but in the base 4 rule, the 4-page rules right now, you just agree upon it. So this is okay, right? We're playing in the Realm of Fire.
And you get your opponent to be like, yeah, the number of people who haven't internalized, who are like 4 pages, such a joke, and haven't internalized all of those 4 pages. Like there was already rules for realm choosing in the base rule set.
Right.
Anyway,
you each choose one and then you roll off if you don't agree.
Yeah, I'm always in the realm of fire with my triple magma dragon army. So
Your magma dragon.
That's the way to go.
You remember the most important rule, which is it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
There you go. That's right.
But that game, I was like, do you want to roll the d6 for the realm, or shall I roll the d6? No other option, right?
Exactly.
I'm happy either way, because if it's optional, I'm going to use it, and if it's not optional, I'm just going to bully them into using it. And if I'm going to use it, well, I'm going to have a good time anyway.
This is one of your Warhammer heroes, my friends.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah. No, bully in the best way possible. Like bully.
Bully.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that towards the end when we talk about community building and stuff. But bullying and it's dictatorship. Those are words that they are synonymous with having to be community leaders. But we'll talk about that later in a nice way.
There you go.
I mean, dictators.
Exactly. Here's honestly my thought on it, right? Like, okay, I go to about 4 tournaments a year. Okay. And I play 5 games each of those tournaments. That's 20 games, right? Okay. And I play otherwise about once a week. So let's say I'm not playing on the weekends where there's tournaments. Let's say I get an average of 3 weeks out of the month, 3 times 12, 36. Okay, great. So for me, even if they were narrative only, I'm sure we'd use them in our home games. So like because we mix in all sorts of multiplayer and Triumph and Treachery and Coalition of Battle stuff all the time. Like that's just how we play. So I would still get the majority of my games using all these rules. I just wouldn't use them at some tournaments. And as you mentioned, 2 of the tournaments I go to are narrative focused. So chances are I get them in those 10 games too. So there you go. Yeah, I mean,
Tom.
Yes.
You are by far the more focused player when it comes to the game itself versus the mechanical side of it when it comes to tournaments. How would you feel if something like the Adepticon said round 1 is set in this realm, round 2 is in this realm, round 3 is in this realm, and then rounds 4 and 5 are going to be realmless?
Personally, for me, I'm not the norm here for a lot of competitive gamers, because I look at that and go, okay, I'm in. I think most competitive gamers want to control all the variables to reduce the possibility of bad things happening. But I am probably in the minority amongst competitive gamers here, because I trust my own ability to compensate, and so like I enjoy more variables because I generally can juggle more variables. That's why I like the two events that I go to every year have 4 objectives in every game. 4. And I love that, because not a lot of players can actually juggle, maintaining 4 different priorities in each game.
Oh my God, Dan, let's run events. It's going to be called Around the Realms in 90 Days is the name of the event. Every round is in a different realm.
It's fantastic. It'd be amazing.
There you go. And the answer is me, Relian. Me. Let's go to the next one. What do we got? There's still so much more. What's next?
Command points.
Command points. Oh boy, it's a big one.
So command points, we've learned that you can spend command points to activate commander abilities. Initially, we weren't sure if those commander abilities that you're activating is like your non-general for like other folks that aren't your general. But when Archeon, like his ability dropped, and you spend 1 point to activate all of your command abilities, when we saw that, that seemed to point to me towards like you're always spending a point. Your general's not free.
Right. Yes, I think that's absolutely the case. Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically, we'll gain 1 command point per round. It seems like you can save them; they don't go away, so you can stockpile them. And like if you have a battalion or for every 50 points that are not spent on units, you gain a command point. Now, I don't know how that all works.
Right. So there's some ability to accumulate extra through battalions, or let's call them empty points. Yeah. In the thing, they did say units, which was a funny choice of words, because then somebody was like, wait, so does that mean I get extra command points when I spy the battalion? right? Like, in other words,
like, yeah, if I spend 200 on a battalion or battalion,
do I get 4 extra command points because that's not a unit? And my answer is no.
I don't know. Like, it's not clear, is what
Sure.
I would say, according to the way they've written it.
Sure. I think we can probably influx common sense there and say if they're already giving you 1 for a battalion, you don't also gain a bonus 4. I've invoked the power of common sense.
Indeed. And then we learned that there are 2 new command abilities, or actually 1 new one and 1 change to Inspiring Presence. Inspiring Presence became something that you activate in the Battle Shock phase after you basically know you're losing troops. You could invoke it, but it only lasts for that Battle Shock phase. It doesn't last for an entire turn, which is a huge change. And then we also gained a free, basically 6-inch run.
Yep. So yeah. So now the key with the Battle Shock thing is big because it's not until your it's not until your next phase. It's just that Battle Shock phase, but it's reactive, so you can pick the unit. Right. The advantage is obviously that you don't have to sort of pre-plan. If this unit got blown up hard, you can protect them. Right. But it's only for that role. Right. Which is very much more like the 40K implementation of it, by the by. The turn of run into a 6 and a reroll a charge. Those are all the generics, the Bobby generics. And yeah, a lot of chain command ability things just suddenly came into question. It's stackerific. And I mean, they're clearly on board with this stackerificness. They made the whole little infographic about here's some of the most fun ones to stack with. Right. And so the question is what does that mean? How is that all going to work? Obviously, there's a direct cost here. You blow through all your points, you got nothing left to be Battle Shock immune. Suddenly, you're exposed to that, or you can't activate command abilities later in the game. So there's a sort of natural balance to this, depending on how many you get. All right, Jind, we'll go to you first on this one. Your thoughts on the command points thing?
I already know it's going to be great because I've already played with that for the last many years in Lord of the Rings with the Might system. So heroes have access to a stat called Might. Anywhere from 1 to 3 might points. It's a finite resource. Very, very powerful if you decide to use that might. The tendency for the poor players or the new players is to burn through that very quickly. The people that constantly come in top table are the ones that know how to do might management. So anyone that can do command point management in this new system is going to absolutely dominate and rock. And you may find someone that was consistently top table, if they can't grasp the concept of command point management, they're going to quickly drop quite fast. And someone that was always mid-tier but can understand the management of command points is going to be suddenly shooting up the tables, up the ranks quite quickly in the beginning until people kind of figure out the system. I'm so excited for command point management. I think it's going to be excellent.
I completely agree. And that's an excellent reference. It is very reminiscent of that Lord of the Rings system. It's been a good, I'm going to say 13 years since I played Lord of the Rings, but yes, I do, sure.
Yeah.
Dan, what about you, buddy?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm like Tom was talking about, I love variables in games. So the weirder, the better. It's more interesting to me versus the line them up and leaf blowing, face-off battles. And so the thing I'm really keying in on is I love being able to stockpile those for those, moments like you guys were talking about. But I'm really keen to think about how some of these smaller characters that have been ignored can work in concert with some of these other key characters. And, so again, I mentioned I was working on Legion of Nagash, specifically Legion of Night, and how if I have this lonely White Lord, all of a sudden my unit of skeletons just got really frightening in a new way that my opponent may not be prepared for. With that lowly white in the backfield, that can really turn the table. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that scenarios like they did in the Realm Gate Wars include some command abilities that can be activated this way as well. So I think there's some really interesting, tactically challenging scenarios coming, I think.
Yeah, I am beyond excited about this. Okay. I got no reservations about this. I agree with you. To me, because it feels like they're drawing on something they have a lot of experience with. You mentioned the might thing. They saw this already in 40K. I think we can avoid the pitfalls. I love that the Keeper of Secrets got a shout out with the excess of violence. I'm excited about that. But let me tell you what I'm most excited about, and it's sitting in that case right there, buddy.
I really hope you're saying Iron Jaws.
You bet I am, because the WA is about to get real, son. It's about to get real. Like, oh man, I want a WA so hard. Just a bunch of mega bosses just be like, wah, wah, wah. It's gonna be like Colossus in the old X-Men stand-up arcade game with unlimited quarters. Like, it is gonna be off the chain. Not to mention the fact, by the by, the fungoid cave shaman, your stock is rising, buddy. I hadn't been interested in you before. But
Yeah.
oh no. Now, suddenly, I'm very interested in you as an ally in my Iron Jaws force, because you bet your bottom dollar I want a super wah and then retreat my mega boss out of combat and then plow that guy back in a second time. Ah! Like, I am stoked. It is going to be the green tide, son. It is coming.
And he's -2 to shoot at.
He's
got the fungoid little fungus things. That's -1. Then with the new one, it'll be -2 to shoot.
That's
You
right.
know the only thing, Vince, that's going to be better than that.
I'm ready.
Running both a normal Mega Boss and Gordrak.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like Gordrak, Maw Crusher, regular Mega Boss, Super Wah, like all three.
Yeah.
Super, because they're different Wahs.
Right.
Right? Like the Mega Boss on Maw
Technically, that
Crusher.
doesn't matter, but yes, they are all different walls.
Right. I like the idea of them all being different Wahs. I get it that I understand we can probably have two of the same Wahs firing off. But like, I love the idea of having these three different Wahs and just being like, oh, buddy, look out. The orcs are coming in hot. I mean, I'm going to swing in. There was this has nothing to do with anything, but I'm going to tell a story quickly anyways. So like, one of my favorite things I ever did was in whatever Holy Wars, the last one we did, when I had my Iron Jaws running on the Daughters of Cain table at Holy Wars, and like my pigs were up to like 8 attacks from the orcs and 9 attacks from the pigs. That's going to be every game now, son. That's just the way this army plays now.
Yeah, like
On the turn I pop off.
9 pigs goes to like 60 some or 70 some tusk attacks. And if like 9 pigs, that's it. 480 points. And if you're setting them in with like Gordrak's buff, they're also getting a 3d6 inch charge.
Yeah.
Oh, get ready. It got real up in here. So like, by the way, I know that like a ton of other armies have other such combos that are also fun. And I'm excited to see all that stuff play out. I think, Dan, like, to bring it back down a minute off of the wall, which is the best, because orcs are the best. Like, in honesty, I completely agree with you. There's so many cool heroes with cool command abilities that do neat stuff that we just never have got to explore, right? Because you weren't going to make them your general, right? And it's cool that those guys will get a day in the sun now. I'm super excited about that. And yes, like, if you pop off, like I'm describing, like, sure, next round I've got no ability, no command points
But
left.
that doesn't matter.
Like, either
on the table.
this is called YOLO, son. We either it's ride or die. Either we win or we go home. Those are the options.
Or like, how about like a triple pile in a witch elves
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
in the hero phase? To be clear,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
there's no fighting back for that triple pile in.
No, I want like Marathi, Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, and Slaughter Queen, like all being like go, and just like just meat slapping in the hero phase. Go ahead.
Ready for let's do a prediction. So the first thing everybody's going to write into the army list, I think, is going to be space for command points. And I think practically universally, everyone's going to set aside a minimum of 100 points in their list for 2 command point bonuses. What does everyone else think what does everyone think the go-to is going to be for the optimal number of points to leave on the table to get those extra combos off? I'm going to say 100.
I think your number's right generically if you average it out. I think you're dead on. I think it's going to be very swingy by army based on the number of like battalions you easily have access to grab. And so like if you're in a place where you can get like 3 battalions at a relatively low cost on whatever the new points look like, then you probably wouldn't leave that 100. But if you've got less battalion access, I think you're exactly right.
No, I think so. I think the magic number is going to be 2 command. Like, if I were to take a guess, I think you're right. I think it's 2 command points. I think most of the time that will manifest in 1 battalion and 50 extra points. Like, I think that, like at the end of the day, I think that's what you'll end up seeing.
I tend to agree. I do think that there's some swing with the armies. Like, for example, if I can get to 2,000 points with my Beast Claws, I'm ecstatic. But there's some army lists that I can't get to 2,000 points, so I'm just going to automatically get some command points laid over.
Well, see, this is all like Tom. You were talking about, they keep saying like the game will go faster, right, or whatever, and people are like, "You're adding extra rules. How is it going to go faster?" People, you're not seeing the forest for the trees, okay? Because I'll tell you how the game's going to go faster. The game's going to go faster because they're going to trick you into not bringing 400 points of your army to the table between battalions and command points. So you're going to be like playing 2,000 point games with 1,600 points worth of figs and popping off like these massive command points, having no battle shock immunity. It's just going to be a slaughter fest. Who's the real winner in all this? Corn. Corn is the real winner in all this. That's the answer.
You have lower defenses, and it's gonna be gross. Honestly, it will be gross because I am looking forward to this because I am gonna break some shit.
Yeah, sure. Look, there's still going to be some defensive armies out there that still play probably in more old style and can be extremely defensive. And I'm going to be so sad when I play them at tournaments because I'm just going to be like, oh man, I got to play this guy who's doing this boring thing. I like the ones where we run at each other and it's murder time. I want more murder time games. I'm just saying. But I'm sure there'll still be plenty.
Nurgle's stock is rising. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like there's going to be attrition-based defensive forces out there. Like as much as we're joking about this kill punchiness, there's still going to be like plenty of armies where command abilities can get interestingly stacky defensive, right? Like and use various abilities and the artifacts that'll be there and the spells that'll be there. So it's not like that's going to go away. Right?
Which, by the way, we all know now why Relian started painting Nurgle.
All right. So anything else to say about command points, gentlemen?
I don't think so. We are at an hour. Oh no. Well, we're almost done with the news.
Yeah, we're almost good.
We estimated an hour for the news. We're almost on track.
I knew it was going to take forever.
One of the neat things that we saw that's been related to this is we've seen a number of art pieces drop.
Oh yeah, man. It's been some awesome art. I would totally get a print of that Slaanesh art, by the way. Make a print of that.
You have the Slaanesh chart?
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Go ahead. Do you want to do the Haish art while I'm bringing it up?
Sure. How about you pull up the Slaanesh one?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. So, like this, I would love a print of this. Let me share here. And of course, I will make the obligatory joke. Here we go. Is everybody ready? You must construct additional pylons. So obviously that's the obligatory thing to say. Now that we've got that out of the way, so awesome. This is a beautiful piece of art. Slaanesh imprisoned by these elvish pylons in between the realm of light and shadow. There she is. You guys like this piece?
Yeah, I want to.
We need to lock on you, Vince.
Oh, sorry. I should be locked on me. Yeah, I'm locked on me. You're good. It's just on your screen for some reason. But yes. There you go.
Yeah. That little round thing needs to be made into a pocket watch.
Oh man, that would be sweet looking.
That would be styling.
I want to know whose idea was it to chain up Slaanesh? Like, are we really thinking about this? like,
sure.
come on, Techless. Really?
He didn't think that through. Sure.
No. Like chaining Slaanesh?
Yeah.
I think he's kind of into it.
Yeah, this is a cool piece of art. I dig it. Yeah, I do hope, like, Warhammer art usually makes pieces like this into a print, so I'm hoping we see it, because I'd order this for my wall, 100%. All right.
We're saying bye to John. Have a good night, John.
Bye, John. All right. So...
and then my two.
Yes, go ahead, Tom. I'll lock on you now, if you have them ready to share.
I do.
Because I know you're excited about the Haish.
Haish! We're in! So, Light. This is the less interesting of the two.
Mm-hmm.
You see like some shadows and you're like, oh, there's a bird.
Shout out to Chuck sharing this, by the way.
Yes.
Everybody should be following Chuck on Twitter.
This is the more interesting one.
Sure, although it's not like there's an angel in this picture.
Yeah, I know that's not an angel. It is just an eagle. We see our old school elven eagles. We see High Mage, and we see probably the more important thing here, the Temple of Cetra in the distance.
Is that what you're saying it is? You're just saying, so your point is long-term, Cetra's been sneakily hiding out on Haish, and he's going to band together with Teclis. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, Ra, right? Like that's what that's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah. I'm down. Cetra's back. The short story, everybody was wondering if the short story was mentioning Cetra because he talked about him being a king. Now we've got this piece of art. 2 dots make a line. Cetra's back. There you go.
And like, look at those obelisks. They look kind of Tomb Kingsy. I'm saying, like, you think elves? That's not what you're looking at here.
I'm just saying, Cetra never died. We know that.
Yeah.
So it's fine. They made it so they can reintroduce him anytime. And by the way, he doesn't need the Tomb Kings to come back either. That can all stay dead and buried, and you could just bring him back as something else.
Wasn't Cetra, his severed head was left behind in his land to watch wasn't that his punishment by Nagash? He just left his head.
No, that's where Nagash left him at the end of their fight. And then the Chaos Gods rebuilt him on the final page of Nagash.
Yeah, and then they thought he would stay with them.
He thought they would stay with him.
Or they thought he would stay with him.
Yeah, they tempted him back into life. And then if you read the novelization of Archaon, the last book, he shows back up. He doesn't. It's not in the big book. You had to read the novel. He shows back up at the end. Kills.
He punches nerd.
Yeah, he punches nerds. He kills the troll that killed Sigvald. I don't remember that troll's name. The named troll who used to be
Throg.
like Throg. Yeah, he kills Throg. Kills a chaos giant. Points at Nagash and says, "When I finish with them, I'm coming back for you." And then marches into the chaos wastes.
Yeah, he goes into the warp.
It is like the most BA ending to a character ever. That was the end of Cetra's story, the last we heard about him. So,
as an aside, those novels, there was the Skosnik novel. It's the only time reading a Warhammer novel, actually, at a page, I stopped and I was blubbering. I was like crying for a bit. It's when Skosnik's Gobbler died.
Yeah.
I honestly, I had the lump was in the throat. The tears were flowing freely down my eyes. I was pretty sad that I was a sad puppy when I read that paragraph. It was not a good time.
No, you're not alone there. There was like that was a really well written scene. Like you actually felt that little goblin's pain. Like whatever, man. You can you can write good story. Like we all understand loss. It's cool. Like I get it. And
Goblin had been with him for like 30 Warhammer years.
Right. Yeah.
In all of his model iterations.
Yeah. Yep. So all right. Very cool stuff. I agree with you, Tom. Why not? I would love them to bring, we get characters come back, and so it's fine. Like everybody's been talking about other characters coming back. Bring back a cool one and do something new with him. Please don't bring back Tomb Kings. Sorry, I love them. There's a ton on my shelf. I love them. Probably, if we're just gonna measure by how many models you have, I love them more than almost anybody else in the world. I'll put my collection against most anybody. But we don't need them yet. I want to see them reimagined at some future date. But I'd love to see Cetra come back now and do something interesting with that character. He's a cool character. And he's very unique in the world. So do cool things with cool characters.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. That's the news.
Whew. All right. That was a lot.
We almost got it done in an hour.
Almost. All right. Let's turn to our pick of the week. So, gentlemen, round the horn, what video, blog, podcast, whatever would you like to share with our users? So Dan, you want to kick us off?
Sure. What I'm listening to besides this one lately has been Garage Hammer. Dave Whitehead has been doing an incredible job of getting into some of the lore. So that's the one that I've been listening to.
Nice. Yeah, he's done some great episodes recently. I completely agree. So yes, definitely strong seconded on that recommendation. I'll link out I would hope that people who are watching this are familiar with Garage Hammer and have subbed to that podcast. But if not, I will put the link down in the description to make sure you do, or you can if you'd like. Jind, what about you, buddy? What do you want to share with everybody?
British chappie by the name of Kitesto. KITETSU. Sounds Japanese, but he's got a very strong English accent. He's an Age of Sigmar channel too. He's been doing some great summary videos recently. He's got some good content. He's a very family-friendly kind of channel too.
Nice. All right. Very good. I am very familiar. That dude does some great like promotion on YouTube because those videos are always popping up and recommended. Tom, what about yourself? What do you want to share with everybody?
I'm going to promote good old friend of the show, Honest Wargamer Rob Symes. I had Rob just released a 40K piece today, which was on slow play. And just it was a very level discussion, very like well kind of reasoned discussion. I would encourage you all to check out that. And then forthcoming soon, I went on his show. We recorded a show. He's going to release it here in a day or two. On my kind of thoughts on AoS and the kind of the AoS 2 and kind of the design trajectory and stuff like that.
Nice. I'm going to give a shout out to a battle report. Ant threw up a battle report today, the Sustainable Center of the Idoneth Deepkin fighting some free people. And I haven't seen many battle reports with the Deepkin yet because obviously not a lot of people have gotten their whole army built. That army was the slowest releasing army in history. Good Lord. It just was forever. That army was like the final scene of the Happy Time Murders trailer. It just kept going forever. But finally it's out and people have put it together. So I'm excited about that. And it's a cool battle report. You get to see just how effectively the Deepkin can fight like 90 handgunners, which is normally a pretty overwhelming amount of shooting. But obviously it's I think a fairly strong matchup for them because of the Forgotten Nightmares thing. So it shows a lot of interesting things in action. So check it out. I'll link the bat rep.
Have you heard about that new channel coming up?
What's that?
Have you heard about that new channel coming up soon? Because me and Dan now have had an hour of YouTube time. We've been talking about doing a channel called Hero Hammer.
If you do that, you tell me immediately that channel launches. When you hit the launch button, you send me a note and I will hit subscribe. It's that quick. It's that easy. You've got one right here, buddy. All right. So, okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and speaking on that, by the way, just as a slight news item, the first episode of Stormcast, their Warhammer's new podcast is coming out this Saturday, and it'll be on iTunes. So if people are interested in subbing up to that, I can't link you to it yet because it doesn't exist. You have to have an episode on iTunes before there's a thing. You can't create a 0-episode podcast channel. It's not how it works. You create it by uploading your first episode. So when that uploads, it'll be there on Saturday. Okay. And I know Ben is doing some kind of interview on the first in the first one. So we'll see. Mr. Johnson's going to be talking about AoS 2, I suspect. All right. So let's talk about some hobby time, because as like 5 people have pointed out, Tom is doing some kind of hobby. It was notable enough that people asked about it in the comments. But at any rate, we'll get to that in a moment. Dan, what have you been working on, man? What's on your table?
So I just finished flocking 60 zombies, which is I didn't realize how much I needed to drink to get through all of them, but I'm pleased. We're ready for this weekend's tournament, but I may have a drinking disorder now.
Sure. It's mass painting, like that kind of stuff is a good way to become an alcoholic.
It's a thing.
Pre-schedule your rehab time. That's my advice. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
It's a good point. Very nice. Jind, what about yourself, man? What's on your table?
Well, I started painting Blight King army for the first time.
All right. Nice.
How
many Blight Kings you doing?
20 Blight Kings, and then the unique characters, so the named ones, and then the generics. And then I'm going to paint up the big guys, and then that'll be my 2,000-point army.
Nice.
Because Adaptus Mechanicus is coming out in August, it's finally given me motivation to do my 40k night. So I'm working on my 7 nights at the minute.
So awesome. I want to get my hands on some of those armigers. Love it.
And the worst part of the hobby. This is the worst part of the hobby. Rebasing. I've been tearing off the squares and putting them onto the box for now. And I've just ordered the 32 mils. Actually, since I'm on these guys, so I had from the world that was, and I still do, it's in the cupboard. I got a 22,000 point Orc and Goblin army from 8th edition.
Okay, that's a significant amount.
Yeah, for my 35th birthday, I started the hobby when I was 10. So my 35th birthday represented my 25 years in the hobby because I started on my birthday. And so I did a game at Games Workshop, and we pushed all the tables together. I put out my 22,000 point Orc army in the middle, and then everybody else collectively barely managed to match my army, and we played a game. It was great. You know what? Since Age of Sigmar came out, I have abandoned, cut. They're gone. They've not come out since Age of Sigmar because what was the most characterful army for me became the most lackluster army in Age of Sigmar.
Sure.
And I really loved all the history. The rule mechanics really represented greenskins. And while they got great rules in Age of Sigmar, they didn't have that character for me. Yet, these guys, the Savage Orcs, were the most boring faction from the world that was. They had great models, but they were just dull. And then they came up with the Bone Splitter book, and they just did a phenomenal job with them.
Right.
And so that was always going to be my go-to. But then Age of Sigmar kicked off for me when this battle tome came out. I don't know what it was. It was the cover, the new logo, the art. I bought this book without even knowing anything about them. I just fell in love with it. And this is what kicked my Age of Sigmar bug when this battle tome came out. Because prior to that, I would dabble. I would play, you'd go in the store. If no one's playing Lord of the Rings 40K, I'd fall back to this because I always have all 3 armies in my case. And so that way you can always get a game with no matter who. But since this came out, this is now at the top of the pile, Age of Sigmar. And then that's why I've been rebasing these guys because they're just awesome.
Nice. Nice. I love it. 22,000 points is impressive. I have to tip my hat to you, sir, because that is momentous. Like, I know that certainly crushes any single force I have. Like, I had 13,000 points of Tomb Kings in Age of Sigmar before the point increase. Right. I haven't recalculated it since the point increase. I'm sure it's like 14 or 15,000 now. And that you are crushing me, son. I love it. I love it.
They were my biggest lover. I have 450 night goblins alone.
450. Oh my god.
59.
That is outrageous, and I love everything about it. All right, that's wonderful. Very good, man. Cool stuff. For myself, I have been working on these girls, and on my second unit of Canary. And I sort of made a decision on my army. Thank you very much. I made a decision on the rest of my Daughters of Cain, which is from here on out, we're just gonna do competition sort of quality. Somewhere around competition display quality. Like, I'll put a ton of hours in these because I've already have a lot into the army. And so at this point, what I have left is them, 2 units of snakes, and Marathi. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do this. All in. Like, I've got time. I don't have my first scheduled tournament with these girls until November. Like, I'm using my Iron Jaws until then, and that army's done.
Vince, are you traveling in June?
I don't know, man. We'll see. But that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do competition stuff all the way up. So there you go. That's
massive congratulations on the demon.
Thank you.
The West Coast gamers over here, we were ecstatic when we found out that you got a demon. I was so ecstatic after I saw your actual work in the flesh at Adepticon, and you did a great video too, talking about the experience and what to expect. It was so awesome. Where's the trophy? Do you have it nearby? Can we see?
Probably not. It's right there. There it is. You can see it. See, there he is, standing in the case. He's right there.
Hey, there we
go. A bunch of other trophies.
Sure. So there you go. But thank you very much. That's appreciated. I was really grateful that everybody reached out. It was very nice when my wife posted that, which was awesome. So
that video you mentioned, you said you did 60 hours of painting. Now you said a week. Did you mean a week or you meant a month?
A week.
No, a week. I try to do I try to keep in mind sometimes I travel. So like I would say my average is like this week I was on the road for 2 days. So that makes it tough because I lost 2 days. But I try to do always a minimum of 40. I definitely hit 40 every week. Like, that's bare mins. I aim for 60. So it's always between 40 and 60 hours a week.
You not sleep? How do you
Not
do
much.
That? That's awesome.
Here's how I do it. You ready? I sit at this desk. I don't have kids. I have I have dedicated time with my wife. I don't have I have friends that come over once a week to play for 4 hours of a game, and I play 4 hours a week of D&D. And I don't sleep much. So surprisingly, if you just do nothing else in your life, you'd be amazed how much time you can paint. Like if you just cut everything else out and you would be completely antisocial and don't sleep much. It's amazing how much extra hobby time you get. It's fantastic.
What is the ratio of wife to painting hours?
What's that?
What is your ratio for wife hours to painting hours?
Well, there's a reason why they want to take over our show.
I mean, I certainly more painting. But like that being said, this is probably not interesting. This is more for that show. But long ago, my wife and I've been married 15 years, long time, not as long as many, but whatever. And so like my wife and I have a very sort of set thing. We have our date nights, and we have, every week, like we made a commitment long ago that we would have dedicated time to each other each week. And that's sacrosanct, right? I don't ever sacrifice that. So like our nights and our time are ours, and that doesn't get interrupted. Nothing gets scheduled around it. We always have that time. So because of that, then, I'm free to sort of take the rest of the time as she is too. Like, I mean, she doesn't like hanging out with me that much anyways. I'm kind of annoying to hang out with that much. So it lets her she has her own stuff too. Right. So there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's the story. So yeah, 40 to 60 hours a week. Yeah. Just don't do anything else. That's the secret. Just don't have friends or other things to do. You'd be amazed. You'll get so much more hobby time in. All right. Kids are truly the death of it, obviously, but
yeah.
And more power. Please, the rest of you, keep having kids and keep the human race going. For me, my bloodline dies right here. Okay, that's it. I am the last one. So that's fine. All right. Okay. So let's turn to our actual feature segment. Now that I said about 90. You asked me how long the show is. I said 90 minutes. That was a lie. So apparently it's longer tonight. I understand. We'll try to move through this quickly. I know you had some hard time restrictions, Jen. So if it comes
up, they've already left. I'm great.
Okay. Very good. So we'll try not to go too late, but I do want to give this some time because I wanted to have both of you on to talk about community building. I think the reality is, as we get into AoS 2, there's going to be a lot of, like Dan, you mentioned it. I think there's going to be some things here that bring some people back. At the very least, it generates a lot of interest, right? A lot of hay is made on the internet. People might give it a second look, right? And so I think the reality is we'll see an influx of at least curiosity in the community. And how do we turn curiosity into new players? How do we build a community? How do we navigate turbulent waters in a time of change, right? Because even if all of these changes end up being net positive, that doesn't mean it still isn't change management, right? Like if you've ever, in all of our professional lives, change is still tough. Change is change, right? It's hard. Like how many times have you been in your professional career? Things have changed for the better, but you're still not super excited about it right away, right? So how do we build that community? So I wanted to start with both of you and kind of ask about the success you've had in bringing in new players in the past. I thought we'd start there.
Vince, before we jump into that, I want to put a pin on something real quick.
Sure. Go ahead, man.
Let's talk about why we have Jind and Dan here.
Oh, well, absolutely. That's because they are Warhammer heroes, like in the truest sense of the word. Yes. Hold on. Let me lock on. There you go. There you go. Like, look, Golden Demon, Schmolden Demon. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they hand out shelves of those every year.
Yeah. That is a rarefied award that you all have. Because, and really, I mean that. That's not me being funny or facetious or downplaying. I mean that literally. Like, the number of people in the world who have been recognized with that honor is extremely small. And I am honored to have both of you guys on the show. Really, I mean that in the truest sense. And I'm grateful for all the work you and the rest of the Warhammer heroes have done. Like, there is a reason why you were selected, is because of the great work, the positivity, the community building, and everything that you've done. So shout out to both of you and to everyone. So thank you, Tom. That is good not to blow past that.
So this is why we're talking about community building. because these are folks that have a tried and tested track record of doing it, and they've been recognized for that. And so we want to celebrate that, and we want to talk about, we want to talk with them about that.
Right. So let's get into this. So let's talk about past successes with community building your group, increasing engagement. What have been the things that you have found that have helped to build your local community? So Jind, do you want to start us off there?
I actually wanted to lead with Dan, if it's okay, because knowing his story, his what he did for the Age of Sigmar community when Age of Sigmar dropped, and what he's done is one of the main reasons why he's got the medal today. So I thought he'd be a great start.
Dan, take it away, brother. All you.
Sure. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's not one individual. Obviously, it's a lot of people. So there are. I am blessed with several other great gamers here in the area, and we've organized some pretty large games. Some of our largest have been some of 40K Apocalypse games that ranged from start in Australia with gaming clubs, and then go to the UK, and then end here. And we'd always loved playing Warhammer and 40K, and when Age of Sigmar came out, most of us were ecstatic, but we had a large group of our tournament players who, as I'm sure happened in every community, turned to the rage of Sigmar and got very upset and, felt bitter and turned away. And so, a few good friends of mine, Mighty Tom Ferris and Brian Stry and we had this talk when it first happened that we were just going, well, we'll just play at the house. We've got our gaming stuff. We don't need to do that. But then we realized, we said, we're gonna start Operation Azure and open the doors. And so everywhere you would go, it was negative. And we realized, we said, okay, well, what would we have to do to create a great community? And so we recognized that there were several things that would prevent people from playing Age of Sigmar. One was all of the negativity that they would see online. And so you'd have that confirmation that it can't be fun. The other thing is they didn't know where to go to connect, because all of the old gaming clubs had moved to other games or just soured on it altogether. And so what we decided to do was to go play at our local hobby store and be loud and proud. And we were going to have more fun than anybody else was going to have. The other thing we did is we recognized, I think, Jind, you said it best, you have to be a tin pot dictator to a certain degree. When you try to make everything fit for everybody, you're going to make people angry. And no matter what you do, how perfect it is, there's always going to be someone who's going to lose their mind, And so how do you cater for most of the people? So if you think about most of our gamers, they don't like a lot of change. They like familiar relationships. They like certainty. And so one of the things that we agreed to do is when people would come by to look at the game, we'd make eye contact and smile at them and stick our hands out, and hey, how are you? Do you play Age of Sigmar? And as soon as we did that, there were people who were like, oh, I hear it's terrible. We go, oh, is that right? Well, why do you think so many people here are playing it? And I'm sorry to hear you feel that way, but if you'd like to come join us, please go ahead. And so it sounds silly, but how do you make it safe for local gamers to come in and play? And especially with a lot of the ones who had a very uncomfortable break from the game, because they've been online, they've typed.
Give me 1 second. 1 second, Dan. Jind, I got a little bit of feedback coming through your mic. Is it okay, Jind, if you mute yourself real quick while Dan talks that way? Because it's just like back and forth. I wanted to make sure we heard Dan quickly. And then when you.
John bought my microphone.
No, if you go to the top of your screen, there's a mute button.
Oh, there's a mute button at the top.
There you go. Okay, continue, Dan. I just wanted everybody to be able to hear what you were saying clearly, and so it's no problem. It's all good. Please continue.
Sure. Yeah, but if you think about it, they've made all of these commitments about how it can't work. So we went out there and really made it work and tried to find, out of the people that you really want to build the community, how do you cater to them? And so we had several, some things that were just goofy that became rallying cries. Like, I don't know how big a fan of the Slambo miniature you are. But one of our local gamers, Mitch Feezer, he'd actually got Slambo, and it was just, we all had great memories of it. And so whenever he would do something, he'd always cry out and go, "Here comes Slambo!" Well, all of a sudden, we got it to where anytime you'd hear that name, everyone would shout the name. And so it became this rallying cry, you know, and so that's another thing with the community is what's your rallying cry? What brings people together? You know, how are you building that feeling of unity? So even at Adepticon, I mean, we would, somebody would yell Slambo. We had people that we'd never met that would start running Slambo, you know, and Jind would be in the other room and we'd hear him yell Slambo.
That's awesome.
You know, but those are the things. How are you making people feel welcomed? How are you welcoming? How are you making it easily accessible to them? And a lot of times we want to build the community based on what we want immediately versus making it about others.
That's so freaking awesome. I love everything about what you just said, because you didn't go out there and bash anything else. You didn't go out there and say, no, this other thing isn't good. You need to trust in this thing, or our thing is the right thing. You just went out and had fun and were positive and invited others to come have fun with you.
And it's
right?
contagious.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, man. That's fantastic.
We get about 20 or 30 on a regular night now. You know, when we do Age of Sigmar, which is great.
That is amazing. You're turning out like small tournament numbers at your weekly gaming night. That's pretty solid. That is pretty solid.
We're hoping to get back into the GT scene. You know, years ago, I was part of the Alamo GT, and that's transferred over to Kings of War. But 2019, look out for the Slambo.
I think there's no what like. So if you do that, you need to reach out to Ben Coster, okay? Who painted? Did you see the Slambo in the case?
They had to wipe my saliva off the glass.
Yeah. So shout out to Ben Coster. That's who painted that. Who's an amazing artist. Do you want to hate your life?
Yes, absolutely. Great.
Ben, who painted that Slambo, has been painting for 1.5 years.
Are you kidding? Oh my God. Well, I'm back to the bottle.
There you go. Now, to be fair, Ben's an artist by trade in his like daily life. That is to say, he does digital, like a lot of Photoshop digital effects and lighting and stuff. So he is well trained in the way of like miniature painting is the study of light.
Like he gets
well trained, in composition and light. So, but that being said, yes, he's actually been miniature painting for 1.5 years. So maybe 2 years-ish now. Yeah. He's an amazing artist. You need to reach out to him and ask if you can, like, you know, maybe use a picture of that guy as like the emblem of your GT or something, because it's my favorite. Like, I do have a special place in my heart for Slambo. I'm totally with you. He's great. It's classic Chaos Warrior. It invokes in me the memories of, like, before I played D&D, I got Hero Quest, right? And it invokes in me the fear and the awe of when that Chaos Warrior got put on the Hero Quest table, right? Like, that dude was not to be trifled with.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a great rallying cry for us. I mean, our local club is the Sons of Slambo, and we have a lot of the Sons of Anarchy, you know, kind of iconography, but it's something that connects the old world to the new world. So it's familiar for some of the gamers who are coming back, yet it still has that AoS branding that all the new people love.
Sure. And it's chaos, but it's also fun.
Right.
Yes. It reminds people that this is a game. This is fun. Some things can be a little silly. It's okay. Right. Like, what we love about this game and this world is that they somehow blended humor and darkness and grittiness all together. Right. That it gets to be all of that stuff at once. Go ahead.
To be clear, we didn't put a pin on this. So you're in San Antonio, is that right, Dan?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then Jind, you're up in
Canada. So I'm in Vancouver, BC, West Coast.
Nice.
For the Americans not familiar with northern geography, we're closer to Seattle than any other part of your world.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically just Seattle too.
Yeah.
So, like,
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. I mean, you're like trying to sneak down into the country on your little peninsula. I'm on to your shenanigans, Vancouver. I know what you're on about. Yes. So Jen, what did you want to add some additional thoughts to that in any way?
Yeah. So if you want to build a community, you know, you got to think about, there's one word which is going to be central to everything, and that word is inclusive. You have to be inclusive, absolutely inclusive. if you want to be a community leader, you have to talk to people that you might not necessarily talk to on a normal day-to-day basis. You have to learn to be polite to everybody. You got to learn to accept everybody, and you got to just realize that we are the most fortunate people in the world. We have a hobby where you can be best friends with someone. I'm best friends with a guy called Mike Yee. We've known each other who knows how long. Only 10 years into our friendship, and this is a guy I would bleed for, give money to freely, talk about our deepest things, only after 10 years of relationship. Oh, Mike, by the way, what do you do for a living? I'm a teacher. What do you do? Oh, I work at the bank. I did, not anymore. After 10 years, because the hobby was first, you walk into the shop, right? Any shop, you're brand new to the neighborhood. Do they look at your height, your color, your weight, your sex? Do they look at any of that? Your sexual orientation? What army do you play?
Right.
Right.
That's what matters. What things you
It
bring to
tells
the
you
table.
way more about that person than any of that.
Right, exactly.
We're so fortunate. So we have this great opportunity. So what does it take to grow a community? So let's take Age of Sigmar is a great game. In some communities, it's absolutely on fire. But you may be from a community where it's just dead. There's not going on at all, right? And you think, how on earth can I ever bring Age of Sigmar in? Well, we did it with Lord of the Rings. I walked into Games Workshop. I saw a guy I've never seen him before playing a game of Lord of the Rings with the manager. And I had the army because I was an employee for 3 months, exactly 3 months, by the way. After 3 months, I quit because that's when the discount kicked in and I bought everything and I left. Right?
Woo!
And I was like, woohoo, I'm out of here. But it was a great 3 months. But he's playing. So I walked up to him and I says, oh, that's awesome. You guys are playing Lord of the Rings. Do you want to play a game one day? And he said, yeah, sure. So the next week I showed up and we played a game. As we're setting up the minis, I see this kid, never seen him before, young guy, Alex Kenny, and he's painting a troll, an Isengard troll. So I walked up to him and says, hey, are you just painting that for 40K, using this as a proxy? And he looked at me with disgust. He goes, no. He goes, I'm a Lord of the Rings player. I says, oh, look at that table. And then he saw me and my friend, not my friend, just a guy, but we never knew who he was, but setting up the game. His eyes went this big. I go, would you like to play a game afterwards? He goes, sure. So we played a game afterwards. And I said, who else do you know that plays? He goes, I got 2 guys that play. I says, listen, I know a couple of guys that used to play or do like to play. I go, let's go talk to the manager and see if we can borrow a table. So I went to the manager, Owen. I said, Owen, do you mind if we borrow a table and we run an event? He goes, go for it. And so we arranged it for a few weeks down the road. We put the word out. And when 18 people showed up into the store, people that I'd even never seen before, they showed up and all of a sudden we had a community. And then it took a long time out. It took a lot of work after that to keep those people together because you have to continuously run events. You've got to create some kind of medium where you can all get together. That's the biggest thing. Get them onto some kind of social media platform, whether you're going to do a messenger group like we did in the beginning, create a Facebook group, get a WhatsApp group, get those guys connected there and then after the event and keep talking. And it's going to be a lot of work. Like your wife's not going to like you at all because she's like, oh my God, you're on your phone again. What's more important than me? I'm like, everything. But you got to get in. You got to put in the time. You got to get that group going. Run events. You're going to have to run events. You're going to have to do about an event a month. But it does pay off because now I'm probably into our 3rd year of the West Coast Hobbits. If anyone in the western coast of the North America, West Coast Hobbits, check them out on Facebook. There used to be a time when if I didn't post on our Facebook page, no one posted. Now I barely look on the page. I don't even have to. If I didn't run an event, there was no event. Now events are running all the time. Hell, I've not even been to the last 2 Hobbit events because I went to Age of Sigmar instead, right? It will happen. If you build it, they will come. But you got to be willing to put in the time. You have to be you got to constantly just barrage people like, hey, what's going on? You got to be friendly, open, approachable. You got to be inclusive. That's, goes back to the inclusive word, but you can do it. And so after getting the West Coast Hobbits up and running, they're great. I thought, it's time to turn my attention to Age of Sigmar. So I'd like to do the same for the Age of Sigmar folks before July because I'm officially retiring as a community leader in July when the second, right? So we've got baby number 1. I think the feedback is actually her just running around upstairs. I'm in the basement, so you can hear all the clunking. We got number 2 coming in July, so I'm going to be off the grid for a bit. But Age of Sigmar, great game, fantastic game. Is it the world that was? Nope. Is it the game that was? Nope. But it is his own game. It's his own setting. It's a great game. You can have a fantastic time with it. And what I've said to people about Age of Sigmar is, while you think the rules might be simplistic, and we're talking about AoS 1, not AoS 2 coming down the pipe, what makes AoS better than the other two systems of Lord of the Rings and 40K is if you look at the General's Handbook, the 6 standard missions out of there, they're phenomenal. They make the game. That's what makes the game so gripping. You have the most tightest time limit sometimes, 3 to 5 turns to win. And the missions are just phenomenal, and it just makes the game great. So just think of an event, do it. Talk to your local store managers. If you're fortunate to have a Games Workshop manager, they will absolutely give you their store. They love it. Oh, you want to organize an event on my store? Absolutely, go ahead. They'll support you. Do it at a local game store. So we held a tournament at a local game store, and we did a voluntary contribution of everyone pitched in $10, and we divided it up into 5 $40 gift certificates for the store. And at the end of the day, the 20 people that showed up, we drew the random names. So whether you came bottom or whether you came top, you got yourself a $40 gift certificate for the store, and you support your local store that way too. There are tons of things to do. If anybody ever wants ideas about, you know, hey Jind, hey Dan, what do we do? Can someone reach out to us? Find us on Facebook. I'll give my contact information to Vince. He can put it up somewhere. You know, reach out to us. We're always happy to wax lyrical about what to do. You can learn from our rookie mistakes, and we made lots of rookie mistakes over the year. And you do have to be a bit of a dictator sometimes. You can't please everybody. So you know what? Just please yourself. You're going to put the most effort into building the community. Do what you want. As long as you're a nice guy, the majority are going to come with you. And you know what? The ones that ain't going to come with you, you're probably better off without them. It's okay. You can't win everybody. You can't save everybody.
I like it. And I agree. You certainly know more, to go back to that, you certainly know more about someone from the army they show up with than anything else. For example, when Tom shows up with his awful, terrible, slow play Nurgle lists of just wretchedness, I'm like, Tom's a terrible person. And I'm right. See, look, you can judge a book by its cover in that regard. It's easy.
Clearly, I have no respect for my opponents.
All right. So, all right. Next question I wanted to ask. You mentioned, both of you mentioned, you know, obviously bringing people into the game, right? So if you're building this community, some part of it is going to be people showing up who haven't played before. So you got to teach them, right? Like learning is going to be a huge part of this. So what are some of the things you found are most important when you're helping new players into these games, right? Because I think, again, that's going to be a big part of it. Dan, do you want to start us off, sort of thinking again about this? Like, what have been your best, you know, couple tips or tricks you give people for teaching?
Sure, that's a great question. So this will sound odd because I am an educator. You know, I'm a trainer and a consultant, but I got to tell you that education is the worst form of influence when it comes to introducing somebody to the hobby. You know, and let me say that again. Education is the worst form of influence when it comes to the hobby, because we get excited about our game. You know, we spend hours, you know, fantasizing about it. You know, my wife's like, "Are you thinking about another woman?" And I'm like, "No, there's a new battle tome coming out. It's pretty sexy." You know, and so people, you know, when you see them, you expect them to have the same context and interest and experiences you do, and so the people just vomit information on them. And so what's more effective is when they come up and they go, "Wow, what is that? I've never seen that. Is this like X-Wing, or is this like, you know, X game?" And so we'll, you know, real quickly introduce them to it. Well, it's Age of Sigmar, for example. And, you know, when you game, what do you like? What do you look for in a game? And so we listen to them. See, if I say it, they can doubt me. But if I get them to say it, it's more true in their mind. So they'll say, "Well, I like randomness," or "I like very competitive battles," and say, "You know what? Me too. That's one of the reasons I like this game." And I will connect that interest to the aspect of the game that exists. Now, obviously, don't make anything up that's not true. You know, but that is one of the fastest ways to connect people to the game. Because a lot of times they'll walk up and they'll be just completely intimidated, you know, by what they see. Like, especially if they've never been into tabletop wargaming. You know,
sure.
Did you paint all of these? Well, yes. Did they come like already built? No. Did you do any conversions? Yes. Is this your terrain and your realm board? Yes. Well, now they've already, all they see is dollar bills and they've checked out, versus, you know, the other aspects of it. The other thing is, for your group, what is the in some businesses call it the elevator speech, right?
Sure.
You had to explain something in just a minute. What would it be? And so why do you play? And so for us, one of the things that all the gamers that we're with will emulate in their own language is to say, look, part of the reason we love this is exciting gameplay, hilarious situations, and making memorable gaming experiences with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't care what game you've played, there's nothing there that you can't connect with. And so asking them questions and cultivating that interest, and also don't try to close them on it.
Sure.
That is so off-putting. It's like, you might as well have a plaid coat, be like, let me tell you about the wonders of Age of Sigmar. It's fantastic. And they've already shut down. I will tell you too that one of the mistakes that we made, Jind made a great point about the mistakes, is like when the Age of Sigmar first came out, I got to tell you, I showed up in a very callous way because I thought all the rage was funny. I thought it was the
Sure.
newest outrage. I had no idea it was that deep. I mean, I didn't get it. I mean, I liked the game. And so, we would joke around, and that was really personally offensive to some of the people, and we had, I wasn't involved with it. We had like a fist fight in one of the Texas gaming groups, over it. I mean, that's how crazy people got.
That's very Texas.
Yeah. Oh, it is. We like to fight.
You were lucky it wasn't like pistols at noon or something, really. If it's
I lived in Houston for 4 years, I can say that.
So, yeah. See, I'm not frightened. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, so I carry a shank. But, either way, I was going to be okay. But the thing that I think I would do is I would compare and contrast game systems. Mm-hmm. And that almost always puts you in opposition of the person that's there. Because here's why I like Kings of War. Here's why I like 8th edition Warhammer. Or here's why I like, and those things are great. Just try to detach it from the game and make it about the thing that they're interested in, the type of gameplay, whatever game it is, and then connect it.
Yep. Yeah, like it's funny because this is you're describing like a sales technique, right? Mm-hmm. Like proper, which I mean, it's not. There's nothing shady about this, but the way that you effectively sell products to people isn't by starting with the product, because no one cares about your product. Your product means nothing. They care about their problem.
Exactly.
Right? And you need to connect and understand their problem and speak to how you can solve it to sell something to them. So, but at the same way, you need to know why they play games and then speak to them in those terms, right? It's the same principle. So I love it. Yeah, that's really good.
They're spending, if you think about it, I mean, one last point I would make is that they're spending, the few of their most precious hours of the week with you.
Right.
And so keep that in mind, because it's either going to be a pleasant experience and they'll keep coming back, or it's going to be an awkward, pushy scenario and you'll never see them again.
Right. No, that's really good. Jind, what about you? Any additional thoughts you want to add there?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. So I watched the Avengers on Monday.
Okay. You're talking about the oh darn it, I'm not going to remember the actors. No, I was going to make a joke about the 1997 movie starring Uma Thurman and I don't remember. Continue. Yeah, the British Avengers. Sorry. Anyways, continue. The joke failed.
Monday.
Oh, he's talking about the dust-ridden ones.
Oh, okay. No, I'm talking about the Avengers with Marvel. So I watched it on Monday. So what's the relevance of Avengers to what we're talking about today? Today is Wednesday. It's only been 3 days. Well, not really. Tuesday, Wednesday. Today's, the second day since I watched the film. Do I remember all the dialogue? No. Do I remember the cinematography that went into it, or the costume choice, or the colors? No. What do I recall about the movie on Monday? Emotions. The emotions I felt while watching the film. People think in order to show someone a game, you got to show them the rules. It goes exactly what Dan says. Well, when you play a demo game, you could actually make up all the rules. Absolutely all of them. It has no resemblance to the actual game. Those people don't care. They're going to go away with an experience. And all you have to do, sizzle. Sell the sizzle. Sell them an experience. It's an emotional ride. So Games Workshop had an awesome thing. It was called the 4 Fs. You have to have the 4 Fs. When you're doing a demo game, keep it fast, right? So if the game normally starts 24 inches apart, you have everybody set a charge distance away from each other. Keep it fast. Make it furious. Gameplay has to be thick and fast. Dice rolling, action, you know, you got to just get in the thick of it. Keep it fast, keep it furious, keep it fun. Goes without saying, fun. If one side is suddenly losing, invent a rule. So we had the demo set of I can't remember the name of the 40k core set, but it was with the Ultramarines and the Orcs, right? And the Ultramarines have Terminators, they've got Marines, they've got a Captain. Orcs, they had nothing. They had 3 Death Copters, and that was literally it. The Orcs would get creamed if you do a one-on-one fight. So I used to set up a Stomper on the board as a piece of terrain, and I had a little battery, like it was just a bit of the bits. And I says, okay, Orcs, you got to get that battery. And if you can get that battery, your Stomper's going to come to life. So basically what I would do is I would let the demo go on. As soon as one side started to win, I would fudge it. So someone got the battery and activates the Stomper, and then the Stomper would destroy the entire board. Everybody walked away just like, it was like, that's the best thing ever. And that comes to the last thing. So keep it fast, keep it furious, keep it fun. Never, ever stop to think of a rule. The last rule is keep it 4s. Which means if you don't know what the thing does, roll a dice on a 4+, it works, right? If you can follow those, you never once consult the rules, and you do the demo, you always, as the person running the demo, you always take the first turn so the other person can see what you've done. And you just explain the game. This is a great game. It's very simple. First, we're going to move, then we're going to shoot, and then we're going to punch the crap out of each other, right? And here's how it works. And you just don't even tell them the rules, and you just do it as you move. This guy can move 8 inches. He moves 8 inches. All right, we're going to shoot you. These guys need 4s to shoot you. And now we're going to see, it's not good enough that I hit you. Did I just get the arrow through your clothing, or did I get it in your chest? Let's wound you. You roll the dice. Oh, but are you wearing nothing? Are you naked, or are you head to toe in steel armor? Make your armor safe. Now you've just explained all the rules while playing the game, keeping it fast, furious, and fun. And if you can't remember the rule, just force it. The biggest problem is if a regular veteran's walking around and they're going, oh, by the way, excuse me, hey, go find your own game, Billy.
Yeah, you don't want to get actually.
Actually, I'm having some fun with my associate here. You wasn't invited to this game. After we finish, you can come talk to us. But for now, do you mind giving us a bit of space? And sometimes you have to be very blunt and just tell them to sod off. And you just literally have to say, you sod off. Get that demo game. If you're taking more than 10 to 15 minutes to play the game, you've done something wrong. That game has to end within 15 minutes. And at the end of it, they're going to be just twitching. They'll just be twitching. The little, even down to the toes, they'll have this little twitch. They'll be great. And then you say to them, well, what do you guys think? Oh, that was so-and-so. Well, you know, if you ever want to get into the game, here's a Facebook group you can join. You can hang out with us. If you ever want to play a bigger game, I've got some extra armies. When do you want to play? And if you want to get into it financially behind you, here's some stuff. I recommend the starter set. Here's some great stuff. You know, what do you guys think? Oh, I love it. Oh, well, what kind of army do you want? Now, if someone asked you that question, I mean, we used to get it asked all the time, whether I was an employee or as just a guy in the store, or just a hobby hero, whatever you want to call it. Hey, Jind, what army should I play? All right, let's do it. Well, I want you to walk around, and what you did, I used to get all this get started boxes, and I used to put them in a row, and I'd say, get rid of the first 3 that you really don't like, and they would knock them down like dominoes, and then you do another round, and then you take it down to the last 3, and you go, well, which one of these do you like the most? And that's when you used to grab the army books and say, have a look at the expanded models that come with the range. Which is the coolest model range? Once they choose it, you go, well, there's your army.
Right.
Ta-da! Yep. Because if you don't love the models, you're never going to get into it. You know, you have to be invested in the models. Otherwise, you're not going to build them. You're not going to.
100% agree.
Yep.
And there you go. And so that's how we used to recruit. And that's how I still recruit. So, I've only worked for Games Works, literally, I kid you not, for 3 months. It was 3 months. And the guy
discount. That's all.
He knew, though. I disclosed it because I had just quit my job at the bank. And I was in this little transition where I could afford not to really work as such, but he had to, he needed some help. He was short on staff. So I said, listen, I'll come work with you for a little bit. I says, how long before I get a discount? It goes, 3 months. I go, okay, wife, can I please work there for 3 months? She goes, all right. So we did. That was a long time ago. That was in 2008. It's 2018, 10 years later, and I'm still doing the same philosophy when I meet new people. So it's like, that's exactly what you got to do.
That's awesome.
Well, and what I like about that as well is like, because some people might listen to that story and think, yeah, but you're not teaching them the real game, right? Like that might be somebody's response.
Right.
And like, well, first of all, yeah, you are, because you're still covering a ton of the rules, right? Like the majority, the vast majority of what you just walked through is the quote unquote real rules. This is how you move, this is how you shoot, these are the dice you roll, blah, blah, blah. It's the core concept. And in the end, you're also showing them that, like, this is a game that has more dimensions than just going by the exact rules for a sort of tournament style play. Yes, that's a version of it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You'll be able to explore all that when you get more comfortable and you learn the rules. Were you going to a tournament tomorrow? No. Okay, cool. Then let's just worry about having some fun with this first, and we can explore the rest of that as you get more comfortable with it. You don't need to know all this. And even when you do know all this, it's your game. If you and your friends agree that this is the way this stuff works and you want to explore a different thing, have a fun, different twist in the narrative, whatever, then you're playing it right. Right? Like that's it. That's the way it plays. I've mentioned before that we like to do, like, at my table, we like to do, like, whenever there's a holiday and we get together, we do like a holiday themed game. You know what I mean? Like, we'll have the Halloween game and we'll do extra rules for death or whatever, you know, we'll do the Christmas game and old grandfather Nurgle's giving out presents. You know, it's the point is that there's nothing that's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you making the game your own. So yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Tom, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add to all that?
No, I agree with it completely. I'm like the wrong person to walking through on those like starter games. I'm like, he gets reroll ones on that save, and they're like, and I'm like, but he does. He has a shield.
You're the actually guy,
Yeah,
Tom.
I totally am. Like that's.
That being said, I know you've been teaching some of this stuff with your kids, and I'm betting when you teach your kids, you simplify things or keep things fast in those same sorts of ways often with a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, my son can handle surprisingly complex like systems, so I'm like, yeah, he has a reroll. And he's like, okay.
Sure, but yeah. I'm sure you don't be like, okay, go make a 2,000 point list and then come back to me. Your kid's 5. Like, what is this jank? No. What is this jank crap you're showing up with? Get out of here, weak sauce. You come back with a real list as you just dunk on your kid.
No, I bring him highly tuned lists.
Sure,
so he knows what. So he knows what quality is.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. All right. Okay. So this one's probably the next question I kind of wanted to talk through is probably a very relevant one given this. From everything we've seen, what do you think is going to be the challenge with getting new players into AoS 2, right? Is it still the same sort of conundrum we've had forever of, some people who have experience with the older fantasy and so, might have negative dispositions? It feels to me like most of the negativity out there on the internet toward like AoS as a thing has pretty much died down. Everybody's went to their camps or whatever. But is that still the big challenge, or what do you think it's going to be bringing people in the new world? Whichever one of you wants to take it first this time.
Jind, why don't you take it?
Well, AoS 2 is going to have the same problems as AoS 1 or Lord of the Rings or 40K, which is if you don't have a couple of core people in the area that are promoting the game, it's not going to fly. Doesn't matter how slick the rules are. It's not gonna go. So that's going to be the biggest detractor. But in terms of the game, here's what happened. Age of Sigmar came at a time where the game that was, unfortunately, was flatlining financially. So the accountant said, we're canning the range. Who knows who made that last minute plea and said, give us one more shot. They go, well, you got a day to do it. And they came out with a 4-page rule. They literally threw Age of Sigmar at the fan just to see what would stick and what wouldn't. And it came out. And it was, if you think back to how it was released compared to how AoS 2 is coming out, how 40K 8th edition came out, where you got months and months of teasers and information, and it was beautifully done. Well, they learned that from the failure that was the AoS launch. If they could go back and do AoS all over again, guaranteed it wouldn't be launched the way it was launched, right? So they came up with the system on the fly. Luckily, it seemed to work, and it was actually not bad. And people started really adopting it and really pushing it, which forced the company in turn to come up with the General's Handbook and to really bring it into like the next level. But they were trying to patch up something that was initially flawed to begin with because they didn't really put too much effort into it. Because for them, it was just one last ditch. It was like, whatever, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we haven't put too much time into this. We're done. Now, AoS 2 is awesome because what they've done is they've seen what worked with AoS. refined it. They came up with 40K 8th edition. Whether or not you like 40K, it's phenomenal edition right now. This is a fantastic edition. The numbers speak for themselves in terms of the sales, attendances. You have a good AoS event at a big con, triple it, and that's your 40K attendance, right? 40K
Right.
is and now what they've done is they've taken their love child, their first love, 40K, and they're like, hey, now let's take all the great bits about that bring back the AoS flavor. So now we're getting AoS 2, which has had the benefit of the initial launch, 40K, and now they're going to give us a phenomenal system. Like, I have no doubts whatsoever that what we're going to see, this will be a premier product. And I think it's going to speak for itself. And once people start playing it, it's just going to, I don't think you're going to have too much of a problem. I think this is a really, really good time to be into Age of Sigmar or getting into Age of Sigmar. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing I am super excited about, talking about like people walking by and noticing your table. Here's a thing that I think should not be underrated. You know, the new endless spells, those spell models. You've got to admit, people are going to walk by your table and be like, "What the heck is that?" Like, that is like when that giant.
Tell me more about that mouth.
Yeah, when that giant Pac-Man is cruising around, Pete, that's going to get some attention at the table. I'm just saying. Dan, what about you? What are your thoughts?
You know, I mean, I agree with everything Jind said, but my worry and concern about AoS Part 2 is the hipster effect. So what I mean by that is we've built, you know, this community, all these little pockets of communities that aren't always linked up. You know, we didn't really think about how it was going to get created. So like if you're looking for a game in San Antonio, Texas, you don't look up San Antonio Age of Sigmar because it's not there. We cleverly named our group Texas Age of Sigmar because we're smart like that.
Well, it's a small state. I mean, really, it's easy.
Small state. I mean, you know, easy to drive through. Yeah. Not really an arrogant state at all. You know, so you know, there's all these little pockets, and we uncover new ones all the time. And one of the things that I noticed is like when the Adonith Deepkin, you know, was announced, and right after Daughters of Cain, there were a lot of people who were saying, "I'm not coming in until the elves are released." There was a little bit of backlash from a couple of people who were saying, well, you know, you didn't care about it when it was tough, and now you want to get in. And so that's what I'm worried about is you know, how do we not regress and say, well, I was into that game before you even know about it.
Oh, geez. Yes.
No.
Oh boy, I'm totally on board for that. Like, that just, there's nothing special about you liking a thing before somebody else liked a thing. Just be happy we all like a thing. Like, for the love of all Pete.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, somebody always liked it before you. Okay? Like, unless your name is like Ian Livingstone or whatever, like there's 3 people who get this right? It's the 3 guys who founded Games Workshop. Like, that's it. They get to be the ones who are like, I was there first. You're darn right you were.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
But you happening to buy a product or participate in something a year before somebody else grants you no special cred. Okay?
Exactly.
I
had to ask a guy. I was like, you know, let me ask you, you know, he did that with one of the players, you know, super great guy. And I said, you know, let me just ask you, what's your end game? You know, what, you know, where did you think that was going to go? Was it going to go, you're right, you are far superior to me, please go on?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, versus just leave that alone and just say, man, I'm glad you're here now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, I completely agree. That's sort of, for lack of a better term, that the hipster mentality of I was there first, right? Just it has no value. It wins nothing. Nobody gets brought in by it. Like, and moreover, it isn't a sign of any kind of demonstrable quality, right? Like, because show it on the table, as it were, right? Play the game, have fun, prove that you're a player who knows how to have fun in the game. That's how you show that you were there first, right? By giving a good game and showing that person a good time. That's the way you prove that you've earned those stripes, not by just existing in the participation of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, and I think there's a tendency sometimes, like for some of us, you know, I even hate saying the term old hammer guys, you know, where we get into well, when did you get in? Well, I was in 94 with this edition. And well, I remember I got Rogue Trader off the shelf in the 80s. And,
sure. Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's great nostalgia, but if you're not part of that, it just separates you from everybody else.
Yeah, and like I don't have any problem with that. I love that. Like, yes, I'm very happy with the fact I started playing when I did of the games I did, and I'm happy. I'm proud of the fact I've been playing that long, but it doesn't mean I have access to some elite club. It's not an airline status.
Right.
Okay, like it just is a reality. So like that's cool. I can share with you fun stories from that time period. You know what I mean? Of like humorous things that were the way the game played or whatever. But yes, like, and to answer a question that was asked in the chat of like, the question was asked, what about the people that called, people, us or whatever, stupid for liking the game in the beginning? Okay. Yeah. So what? If they're interested in coming around now, all is forgiven. Like, cool. I don't care that you thought that was how it was then. You're the one who's eating crow.
Like good stuff.
Yeah. Like that person is, if that's true, yeah. If they're coming to you and they were aggressive toward the game in the beginning, the last thing you want to do is try to rub their nose in it, because Absolutely. They've already had to eat crow to come to you and ask you about the game.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is then shove that back in their face. Like, just, you don't need to. You won. You won in this imaginary contest, because that isn't even real to begin with. They came to you and want to play your game. You won. Win with grace.
Yeah.
Okay. And welcome them in. And if you said the game was fun and you said the community was good, don't then disprove yourself by beating the tar out of them because you know what you're doing and you're an expert and they don't know, and being a bad player. Exactly. All you're doing is showing that you were the liar the whole time, and that they
exactly. Well, it's weird, we don't think about it like it, but just being kind and decent is something you can continuously give away, and still have all your money in the bank, and still have more to give away. So I mean, it's it's if you do that, your community grows. If you don't, you just you're part of the issue. And so that's something that, I mean, I have to worry about. There's a couple of good friends of mine that, we didn't see eye to eye on it, and I love them dearly, but, we both want to win that argument. And it's like, you got to just let it go.
Right.
This is about friendships. This is just something we do to enjoy each other.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's, we've been going for a while. Let's bring ourselves to a close here. Let's give some
guys, just before we do that.
I wasn't going to close it right away. I was going to say.
I'd like to introduce you to, what's your name?
Yes.
Jaina Kozende.
Hi.
These are all my friends. They're all from America. And do you know what game they play?
No.
Warhammer Games Workshop.
I love Warhammer games too.
Yeah.
All right.
What armies you like to play with?
I like to play with lots of armies.
Yeah? Which armies?
All of them.
Which is your favorite one?
Rowhammer.
Rowhammer. It's a combination of Rowhammer and Warhammer. Rowhammer.
I like it. That's good. This right here, she answered all of them, and immediately there's some marketing person at Games Workshop. It's like, it's 4 a.m. there, and they just woke up and they were like, I feel excited. I don't know why.
I'll send you guys in our little Facebook chat a video of our last game that we played on the table behind us.
Nice.
It's
That's
not
awesome.
The lighthearted, because models do physically clash. It's a pretty good game. It's the real life version of Warhammer.
So I thought we'd close out with some final tips, thoughts, etc. for community building. So Dan, why don't you start us off, and then we'll have Jind close us out here.
Okay, 2 quick things is one, if you want to bring people in, don't neglect your terrain. We spend a lot of time painting our armies, but if you have the terrain to make it beautiful, that's eye-catching. The last thing would be is just endeavor to have more fun than your opponent. Because it's, if you make sure they're having a great time, you're going to have a great time. So if you do those things, you're going to build a group slowly but surely.
I love it. Yeah, it's true. And Age of Sigmar has afforded us the chance to do amazing things with terrain, to go vertical. We've praised Steve Herner and his amazing tables 100 times, but they are proof in the pudding that you can just do incredible tables. And the reality is, it does draw people in when people walk by a table and see those landscapes. Yep. Agreed. Jind, what about you, sir? Final tips, thoughts?
Actually, Jaina, what time is it?
time to be awesome.
It's time to be awesome. That's all you have to remember when you want to get people in. Just be awesome. Get out there. Be outgoing. Invite people into the game, the conversations, and just don't be scared to put in the time and effort. If you put the time and effort in, folks, it's gonna happen. If we can, what? Oh yeah, but what do you want to say?
My second birthday.
Okay, it's the second birthday apparently. But anyway, just put the time in. It is a lot of effort, but the reward is exponential. Like if you want a gaming community, it's not going to come by itself. If no one's doing it, just get up and do it. If we can do it, and you know, who are we? We're just regular Joes, right? We're not celebrities like you and Tom, right? So
Good Lord. No. But I appreciate that and completely agree. That's right. You mentioned the if you build it, they will come thing. I think that's true. So be that positive ambassador. Bring people in. We've got a great chance here with this relaunch to continue to grow the community that has been growing already in leaps and bounds over the past 3 years. I think this is a really exciting time for the hobby. I want to give a special thanks to Jind and Dan. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, an honor to have you both on, gentlemen.
Are you guys kidding? This is being like, it's a hobby dream today. When I was at Adepticon, and on the Friday night was when we did this, I thought that was the pinnacle of hobby life. And then Sunday, I'm walking through the vendor fair. And then I see the Age of Sigmar side on the side, and I'm looking at this Carradon Overlords army, and my jaw was dropping. It was gorgeous. And then I hear this voice. Oh, do you have any questions about that? And in my mind, I'm like, Tom? That is Tom! Oh my goodness! And what did I do? I'm so shameless. We got a picture taken together. It was fantastic. I met Tom. I thought that was it. Now I'm looking at the tables, and it's like I know that time's running out, and I'm just looking for some last-minute buys. And I went to this table, and I saw this guy wearing his grey apron, and I thought it was just some guy that works there. He seems to be tidying up, right? So I think he's putting away the tables. And it turns out it's Vince, Warhammer Weekly. I'm so shameless. I'm like, can we get a picture then? And he's like, absolutely. And I remember I said, oh my God, you're Vince. And he goes, all my life in typical Vince fashion. Like, it was amazing, right? Meeting you guys was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I can't stress just how influential you two guys are. Just how many people that you've never even seen on there appreciate what you guys do every week. Chris, 1 second, Buffet. And like when I told people locally that I was coming on Warhammer Weekly, you should have seen the reaction here locally. Like, like you guys may think of yourselves as normal, regular dudes. You're not. You guys are the real living legends of our community, and we are so thankful for what you guys do for us. Like, seriously.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both very much. That's far too high of praise.
Way too high.
Way too high. But that being said, I am greatly appreciated, and I hope at the bare minimum for both of you and all of you watching now and in the future that we provide at the very least white noise that gets your models painted. If we've done that and more painted models are entering the world and more cool models are on tables that are getting more people to play, then I will count my life as a success.
You're
can
the
write it on my tombstone.
models.
That's right. Exactly. If my epitaph is he helped fight the war against the gray, and I am down with that. That's a tombstone I can be proud of. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Thank you all for watching.
And shameless plug, BC Wargamers, find us on Facebook. Anyone in the west coast of Canada / America, BC Wargamers, it's a local page. You can find us. It's all the game systems at GW. Dan, what's your shameless plug?
Texas Age of Sigmar and the Sons of Slambo.
There you go.
I've already joined.
Give me all those links, gentlemen. I will make sure they're all in the description. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. It is deeply appreciated. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.